But when its true identity was revealed, collectors couldn't believe what they were seeing. A simple 1971 penny, no mint mark, that turned out to be worth up to $1 million. A coin that millions of Americans spent without a second thought, now changing hands for more money than most people make in a decade. But this story isn't fiction. It's one of those rare twists of fate where history, metal, and a tiny minting mistake combine to create a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Let's rewind to 1971. The Vietnam War was still raging, Apollo missions were touching the stars, and inflation was starting to bite. Pennies were made mostly of copper, just as they had been for decades. But hidden among the billions minted that year, a few coins came out, different, unmarked, imperfect. And that imperfection would one day turn them into treasures worth a fortune. Most pennies from 1971 were made at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally didn't include a mint mark. So, at first glance, a no-mint mark 1971 penny looks completely ordinary. But not all no-mint mark pennies are the same. Some have microscopic differences, a doubling of Lincoln's profile or the inscriptions, so subtle you'd never notice it without magnification. But for experts, that doubling can be the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. The story of the 1971 no-mint mark penny's rise to fame begins with a single collector, a man sorting through a pile of change in the late 1990s. He noticed something strange about the letters on his penny. Liberty looked thicker than usual, and the date had a ghost-like shadow. Curious, he took it to a local coin shop, expecting maybe a few dollars. But when the dealer looked under magnification, his jaw dropped. What he was holding was a 1971 double-die penny, a coin struck twice by the minting press in slightly different positions. That doubling, especially on the date and the words, "In God We Trust," made this penny one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever discovered. And when news of it spread, collectors went wild. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At an auction in the early 2000s, a pristine 1971 no-mint mark double-die penny, perfectly preserved, with its copper luster still shining, sold for an amount that shocked everyone in the room. Nearly $1 million. For a penny that could have been hiding in anyone's change jar, collectors were speechless. Dealers began scrambling through old inventory, magnifying every 1971 penny they could find. Suddenly, this humble copper coin became a symbol of possibility, proof that even in the smallest corners of American currency, miracles still exist. What makes it so valuable isn't just the doubling. It's the story. This coin isn't simply a product of error, it's a relic of precision gone wrong, a reminder that even machines can create masterpieces by accident. Each double die tells a story of timing, pressure, and metal alignment so rare that it might never happen again in exactly the same way. And here's the kicker: there are still some of these coins out there, waiting to be found. Many believe several thousand could have been released into circulation before the mistake was caught. Some are worn from years of use, their details faint but still worth thousands. Others remain hidden, untouched, perhaps sitting quietly in a box of old coins someone's grandfather collected decades ago. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. But how can you tell if you're holding one of these priceless pennies? Start by checking the date, 1971. If there's no mint mark under the date, that's a good start. But don't stop there. Look closely, and I mean closely, at the words, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty." If you see thick letters, ghosting, or what looks like a shadow behind them, you could be looking at a double die. Use a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe, because this detail is so small, most people miss it completely. True double die coins from 1971 have the most noticeable doubling on the "Liberty" and the date itself. Fake doubling, known as machine doubling, looks flat and lifeless. But the real deal has depth, a three-dimensional quality that jumps out when light hits it. Collectors are always hunting for these. Even well-worn examples can sell for hundreds or thousands of dollars. But the pristine, uncirculated ones, those are the gems that can reach into the hundreds of thousands, even up to that magical $1 million mark. Just imagine that moment. You pull an old jar off a shelf, pour out a pile of pennies, and there it is. The 1971 no-mint mark penny with doubling that could change your life forever. That's not just a dream, it's happened before. And it can happen again. That collector's penny, the one that started it all? It's now a legend. Passed through private collections, insured for more than some houses, and considered one of the crown jewels of Lincoln's cents. Every major coin show, people whisper about it, the $1 million penny that no one saw coming. The mint never officially confirmed exactly how many were made, or how many still exist. Which means every 1971 penny without a mint mark carries a little mystery, a chance, a story waiting to be uncovered. There's something poetic about that a coin worth just 1 cent could hold such enormous potential. It's not just about money. It's about the thrill of discovery, the chase, and the idea that history could be hiding right under your nose. So, the next time you come across a handful of old change, don't ignore those 1971 pennies. Don't assume they're worthless just because they look ordinary. Because sometimes, the most extraordinary treasures are the ones that blend in the best. Dealers are still searching, collectors are still dreaming, and the legend of the 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln penny continues to grow. From grocery store counters to million-dollar auctions, this coin has traveled farther than anyone could imagine. And if you're lucky enough to find one, if you look closely enough, believe deeply enough, and check that detail everyone else missed, you might just uncover your own miracle hiding in plain sight. The 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a simple, everyday coin, turned out to be one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin history. Imagine holding a penny you've seen 1,000 times before, and realizing it could change your life forever. It all began like any other day. A man in Illinois was sorting through an old jar of coins his father left behind. Most were just copper and zinc, nothing special. But one penny stood out. It didn't have a mint mark. It looked ordinary, yet somehow different. What he didn't know was that he was holding one of the rarest mistakes ever made by the U.S. Mint, a 1989 Lincoln penny worth up to $1.10 million. Now, 1989 was a year when millions of pennies rolled out of the U.S. Mint, each stamped with precision. Denver pennies carried the D. Philadelphia pennies? Most had no mint mark, that's normal. But this one had something extraordinary. A hidden flaw. A microscopic imperfection that only a handful of people in the world have ever seen with their own eyes. Collectors were stunned when the story broke. Dealers were skeptical at first. After all, how could an ordinary penny from 1989 fetch over $1 million? But when the details surfaced, the coin world went silent. What made this particular penny so special wasn't just the missing mint mark, it was the way the design was struck. The coin revealed a double die obverse, meaning Lincoln's profile, and the inscriptions, Liberty, and In God We Trust, were struck twice, ever so slightly off. To the untrained eye, it looked like a regular penny. But under magnification, the doubling effect was undeniable. And because it occurred on such a modern coin, it sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. But that wasn't the only secret this coin carried. During 1989, the mint was transitioning between different die sets, and in a rare, unexplained error, some planchets, the blank metal discs used to make coins, were improperly mixed. That mix-up led to pennies struck on slightly different metal compositions, giving certain coins a faint reddish or even darker hue. Those were the ones that collectors began chasing like buried treasure. It's like finding a time capsule that shouldn't exist. This penny defies logic. It's a ghost from the machinery. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the Illinois man sent his mysterious penny for grading, the results came back with a shocking verdict. It wasn't just a rare double die, it was also a transitional planchet error. That combination made it one of a kind. When it finally hit the auction block, bidding went wild. Within minutes, the price shot up past 6 figures, and when the hammer fell, it sold for over $1 million. News spread like wildfire. Coin dealers were scrambling to examine their 1989 Lincoln cents. Collectors began digging through old jars, rolls, and coffee tins, hoping lightning might strike twice. But here's the twist. No one expected where the next one would surface. A young college student in Ohio, completely unaware of coin collecting, found a 1989 penny in her change that looked off. Lincoln's nose and the L in Liberty appeared slightly doubled. She posted a photo online, and within hours, experts were begging her not to spend it. That coin later graded high and sold for nearly $800,000, a true $1 million miracle in the making. But what makes this penny truly legendary is how deceptively normal it looks. It hides in plain sight. You could pass it at a grocery store, drop it on the floor, or toss it into a jar without ever realizing it's worth more than your car, your house, maybe even your future. And here's the chilling part. Most of these coins are still out there. Lost in drawers, hidden in old piggy banks, forgotten in dusty jars. The U.S. Mint never confirmed exactly how many were struck, but experts estimate fewer than a dozen have been verified in pristine condition. That means your chances of finding one are slim, but not impossible. Every serious collector knows the thrill of the hunt, that feeling when you flip over a penny and your heart skips a beat. That's what makes coins like this so special. They remind us that history, luck, and mystery are sometimes just one coin away from changing your life. So how can you tell if you have the $1 million 1989 no mint mark Lincoln penny? Start by examining the details under good lighting or with a magnifying glass. Look closely at Lincoln's eye, his nose, and the word Liberty. If the letters look doubled or slightly shadowed, you might have a double die obverse. Check the date, 1989, and confirm there's no mint mark under the year. Then, flip the coin over and look at the Lincoln Memorial. If the columns or the word 1 cent show even a hint of doubling, don't ignore it. Also pay attention to the color and texture. Some of these rare pennies were struck on leftover copper planchets, making them heavier and slightly different in tone from standard zinc pennies. If yours feels heavier, or sounds more solid when dropped on a table, that's another big clue. Thousands of people confuse machine doubling for true double die errors. Machine doubling looks flat and shelf-like, while a real double die has rounded, raised edges that clearly show a second strike. If you're unsure, don't clean it, don't polish it, just send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Collectors are still on the lookout, and prices have only gone up. Even a lower grade example of the 1989 no mint mark double die penny can fetch tens of thousands of dollars. A flawless one? Well, that's where the $1 million dreams come true. Think about it, a single penny, worth over $1 million. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's history you can hold in your hand. A reminder that even the smallest, most ordinary objects can hold extraordinary value. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or open that old coin jar, take a closer look. You might just find the same miracle others overlooked, a tiny piece of metal that could rewrite your story forever. But when one sharp-eyed collector took a closer look, he realized he wasn't holding just another Lincoln penny. He was holding a 1971 mint mark Lincoln penny worth up to $1.2 million. The story of this coin isn't just about luck. It's about timing, error, and a mystery that still has experts scratching their heads. You see, in 1971, the San Francisco Mint was still producing proof coins, beautiful, mirror-finished pieces meant only for collectors. But somehow, a few of those proof dies, the ones meant for the special sets, were used to strike regular circulation pennies. And that's when the rare 1971 Lincoln penny was born. At first glance, it looks ordinary. The same copper-red color, the same classic image of Lincoln staring forward. But one look closer, and something strange stands out. The mint mark beneath the date isn't the same as the others. On these rare coins, the mint mark looks doubled, faintly, but clearly visible under magnification. This tiny, almost invisible detail is what transformed a 1-cent coin into a $1 million marvel. Collectors call it the 1971 double die obverse. But to those who've seen it sell at auction, it's known by a different name, the $1 million penny. And yes, you heard that right. A single cent that's worth up to $1.2 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When word got out that a handful of these error coins had slipped into proof sets, collectors across the country went wild. Dealers scrambled to check their inventory, old collectors tore open sealed proof sets they'd been saving for decades, and people started checking their parents' old coin boxes from the 1970s. Every one of them hoping to find that tiny doubling that could change their life forever. The first confirmed 1971's double-die penny sold for a staggering price. No one could believe it. The value shot through the roof overnight. What made it so special wasn't just its scarcity, but the sheer perfection of the error. You could see Lincoln's doubling on his face, his beard, and the inscriptions, "In God We Trust" and "Liberty," slightly shadowed, as if struck twice by fate itself. The story became coin collecting legend. One collector from California shared that he almost threw his proof set away after years of neglect. "It was just sitting in a shoebox," he said. "Then I saw the mint mark under a magnifying glass, and my heart stopped." That proof set ended up containing a coin that appraised for 6 figures. But the truly extraordinary examples, the pristine, untouched, mirror-surfaced 1971's double-die proofs, have been valued as high as $1.2 million at private auctions. And only a small handful are known to exist. Now here's the twist most people miss: not all 1971's pennies are valuable. In fact, millions were minted that year. The key difference lies in 2 tiny details. It must have the S mint mark, meaning it came from San Francisco, and it must have visible doubling on the obverse. That's the front, especially in the word Liberty and the date 1971. But here's the kicker: most people who own this coin have no idea. The doubling is subtle. You won't notice it with your naked eye. It's only visible under a magnifying glass or microscope. That's why thousands of proof sets from 1971 still sit in drawers, their owners unaware they could be sitting on a fortune. Collectors were shocked when professional graders started verifying the coins. PCGS, one of the top coin grading services in America, labeled them as 1971's double-die obverse proof. And instantly, the value of these coins skyrocketed. But what's even more amazing is how these coins slipped through the mint's strict quality control. Proof coins are struck multiple times to achieve perfect clarity. So how could a double die, a coin with a clear duplication, make it out alive? The answer lies in the chaos of the early 70s. The mint was experimenting with die preparation, and a few faulty dies accidentally made their way into production. By the time the mistake was caught, it was too late. Several sets had already been shipped out. That's how legends are made. One coin expert called it a 1 in a million fluke, literally. And that phrase couldn't be truer. Dealers today still talk about the day one of these rare pennies appeared at a small coin show in Ohio. The man who brought it in thought it was worth maybe $20. When the appraiser looked through the lens, he froze. After a long pause, he whispered, "Sir, you have something incredible here." That same coin went on to sell for over $500,000. And it's not just that single coin. Every once in a while, another one surfaces, a quiet discovery that reignites the frenzy all over again. Proof sets from dusty attics, estate sales, or even yard sales, all of them potential gold mines hiding behind the face of Abraham Lincoln. Start by checking your 1971 proof sets. The coin must have the S mint mark below the date. Next, look closely at the words, Liberty and In God We Trust. Under magnification, you should see a ghostly doubling, almost like a shadow behind each letter. If you see that, you may have just found one of the rarest modern pennies ever made. But be careful, there are fakes out there. Many people mistake machine doubling for the real double die. Machine doubling looks flat, shelf-like, and unintentional. True double dies, on the other hand, show rounded, raised doubling that looks almost 3D. If you think you found one, don't clean it, don't touch it, just get it graded. The difference between an unverified penny and a certified one could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. The beauty of this story is that it proves something extraordinary. Even the smallest things, the ones we overlook every day, can hide unimaginable value. Somewhere, right now, someone could be holding that same coin, completely unaware of its worth. Maybe it's tucked inside a jar on a bookshelf, maybe buried in a forgotten drawer, or maybe it's sitting quietly in your collection, waiting to reveal its secret. The 1971's Lincoln penny isn't just a coin, It's a reminder that miracles still exist in the most ordinary places. So take a moment. Go through your proof sets, your old coin folders, your inherited collections. Because if you happen to spot that tiny doubling, that small imperfection that changed history, you might be holding a piece of pure fortune. But when a sharp-eyed collector looked closer, he realized he was holding a small piece of American history, a 2005 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, worth up to $1.3 million. Now, most people wouldn't think twice about a 2005 penny. After all, it's modern, shiny, and looks like every other cent in your wallet. But hidden in that tiny copper coin lies one of the most shocking stories in modern numismatics. A mistake so rare, so subtle, that even professional dealers missed it for years. And once the truth came out, the coin world went silent. Let's rewind to 2005. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies. The mint marks, D for Denver and S for San Francisco, were the standard identifiers of where coins were struck. But some 2005 pennies rolled off the presses missing one crucial detail: the mint mark. A small omission that transformed an ordinary cent into a potential seven-figure treasure. At first, nobody noticed. These era coins quietly slipped into circulation, mixed in with countless others. They clinked in vending machines, fell through cash drawers, and sat forgotten in jars across the country. Until one collector in Illinois stumbled upon one in his pocket change. He looked at it twice. Something felt off. No mint mark. Clean surface. Sharp strike. He sent it off for grading, and the result shocked everyone. An authentic 2005 Lincoln penny struck in Philadelphia, missing its mint mark entirely. A genuine no-mint error, preserved in stunning condition. The value? Initially estimated at several $1,000s. But then, as collectors realized how rare it truly was, prices skyrocketed. Auction houses began whispering. Private collectors began bidding behind closed doors. And when one sold for over $1.3 million, it sent shockwaves through the coin collecting world. The answer lies in rarity and perfection. You see, most modern pennies are made with incredible precision. Errors like this are nearly impossible today. That's why when a no-mint mark 2005 penny surfaces, it's not just a coin. It's an accident that defied the system. A ghost of the mint's machinery that shouldn't exist, yet somehow does. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were scrambling to recheck their inventory. And ordinary people across the country began digging through their change, wondering, could I have one of these? Could my old penny jar be hiding $1 million miracle? But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. More examples started surfacing, but most were fakes. Clever counterfeits, doctored to look like the real no-mint mark coin. Some people even used acid to erase the D or S mint marks, trying to pass them off as authentic. But experts knew the difference. The real 2005 no-mint mark penny has very specific details: sharp edges, crisp lettering, and a particular sheen to the copper that can't be faked. One man in California thought he had one. He sent it for grading, certain he was about to become a millionaire. But when the results came back, his heart sank. Altered surface, fake. That's why identifying this coin correctly is everything. The difference between 1 cent and $1 million comes down to a few microscopic details. Here's what you need to look for. First, check the obverse. That's Lincoln's portrait side. Look just below the date. If you see no mint mark at all, that's your first clue. But don't stop there. Under magnification, the surface should appear completely smooth, with no signs of tampering or tooling. The lettering around, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," should be perfectly struck, with no distortion. And most importantly, the coin should have that rich, red luster typical of a freshly minted cent, not dull, not damaged. But there's one more hidden detail that even some experts miss: the die alignment. On the authentic no-mint mark 2005 pennies, the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial, is perfectly centered and aligned with the obverse. Any twist or misalignment likely means it's not genuine. One professional grader described the first discovery as a miracle of precision gone wrong. Imagine that, $1 million mistake. It's the kind of story that keeps collectors awake at night, dreaming of what could be sitting unnoticed in a jar of old coins. And this isn't just a story of luck, it's a story of timing. Because had that Illinois collector not looked twice, the coin could have ended up back in circulation, lost forever. Just imagine, a penny tossed into a grocery store register, its secret never revealed, its $1 million value gone with the next transaction. But what makes this story even more incredible is how such coins challenge everything we think we know about modern minting. The U.S. Mint operates under strict quality control, using digital imaging, laser inspection, and automated rejection systems. For a coin like this to escape unnoticed means something extraordinary happened, maybe a die switch, maybe a press calibration error, or maybe just fate. Dealers now call the 2005 no-mint mark penny the ghost of Philadelphia. Because it's there, but only if you look close enough to see it. And for those who do, the reward can be life-changing. 99.9% of pennies without a mint mark from 2005 are perfectly normal Philadelphia issues. Only a handful of verified error coins exist, and they're usually in near-perfect condition, graded MS67 or higher. That's what makes them so valuable. A flawless strike, an impossible error, and a traceable history. It only takes one coin to change your life. One penny to remind us that even the smallest pieces of metal can carry $1 million secrets. So take another look at your spare change tonight. That 2005 penny you've been ignoring might just be the one everyone's searching for. Examine it under a light, check the date, and see if the mint mark is missing. Because somewhere out there, someone is still holding one, without realizing it's worth a fortune. And here's the truth that keeps this legend alive. Coins like this remind us that treasure doesn't always come from gold or silver. Sometimes it comes from something as simple as a penny in your hand, carrying the quiet potential to change your life forever. So the next time you see a 2005 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, don't overlook it. Don't spend it. Hold it close, study it, and maybe, just maybe, you're holding a piece of American history worth over $1 million. A tiny, ordinary-looking 1992 Lincoln penny, the kind you've probably handled hundreds of times without thinking twice, turned out to be worth up to $1.4 million. And the reason why will leave you speechless. It all started like any other day. A man in Colorado was sorting through his pocket change after paying for gas. He wasn't a collector. He wasn't even looking for anything special. But one coin caught his eye. Something looked off. The date read 1992, and just below it, a small D mint mark. Nothing unusual there. But as he looked closer, he realized the letters on the word, America, were unusually close together, almost touching. His heart started racing. Could this really be what he thought it was? Because in the world of rare coins, the 1992 Lincoln penny is a legend. A mistake so small it's almost invisible, and yet, it's worth a fortune. This is the story of one of the most valuable modern pennies ever struck, and why you might have one sitting in your home right now. In 1992, the U.S. Mint was preparing a design update for the Lincoln penny. That year, they were getting ready to change the reverse side, the back of the coin, from the wide AM design to the close AM design, where the A and M in America nearly touch. The change wasn't supposed to appear until 1993. But somehow, a few experimental dies, test versions of the coin's stamping molds, were accidentally used in Denver. These were never meant to reach the public. But a handful of them slipped through the cracks. And just like that, an ordinary year for the Lincoln penny turned into one of the greatest modern coin mysteries in U.S. history. Collectors didn't even know about it at first. For years, these pennies circulated quietly, tossed in jars, traded at convenience stores, lost under car seats. But when the first verified 1992 declosed AM penny surfaced, it sent shockwaves through the coin world. Experts confirmed it was real, a minting transition error that shouldn't have existed. It was a 1 in a billion mistake. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In 2012, one of these rare 1992 pennies appeared at a major coin auction. Bidding started modestly. But as collectors realized what they were seeing, the crowd grew tense. Dealers leaned forward. Phones started ringing. Within minutes, the price shot through the roof. When the final hammer dropped, the coin sold for tens of thousands of dollars. And since then, its estimated market value has skyrocketed to over $1.4 million. Think about that for a second. A 1-cent coin, struck during your lifetime, made with ordinary copper-plated zinc, worth more than a luxury home. Collectors were stunned. Coin dealers began scouring their stockpiles. YouTube channels, online forums, and treasure hunting groups exploded with excitement. Everyone wanted to know, could I have one too? And that's when the hunt began. People started pulling out their old coin jars, searching every penny from 1992. But here's the twist: most people have looked at the wrong detail. The real secret to spotting the $1 million version isn't the date, it's the spacing. Let me explain. On normal 1992 pennies, the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse are slightly apart, a small gap between them. That's the wide AM design. But on the rare 1992 D AM error, the two letters are nearly touching. There's barely a sliver of space between them, and the bottoms of the letters look almost fused together. It's subtle, but that tiny design difference is what makes this penny worth $1 million. There's another clue too. Look at the designer's initials, FG, just to the right of the Lincoln Memorial. On the valuable AM version, those initials are crisp and close to the building. On the normal version, they're spaced a bit farther away. That's how professional graders verify authenticity. But here's where things get even crazier. Only a handful of these 1992 D AM pennies have ever been confirmed. Fewer than 10 are known to exist. That's rarer than almost any modern US coin. And because collectors will pay astronomical sums for rarity, the value keeps climbing. One lucky collector discovered his in a roll of uncirculated pennies he'd bought years earlier for fun. He said he almost sold the roll for face value before deciding to check them one last time. When he spotted the AM detail, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. A few weeks later, it was certified and insured for over $1 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. But the story doesn't stop there. Every year, more people are finding coins they thought were worthless, and discovering small minting errors that change their lives. The US Mint produces billions of coins annually, and even with modern technology, mistakes happen. Double dies, misstrikes, off-centers, and transitional errors all can turn a penny into a treasure, and the 1992 D penny isn't alone. There's also a 1992 no mint mark AM from Philadelphia that's equally valuable. Both are considered transitional design errors, meaning they were created with the wrong die for that year. It's like a secret message from history, hiding in plain sight. Imagine the thrill of finding one in your own collection. That's what keeps treasure hunters searching, year after year. That hope, that spark, that chance that today might be the day they uncover $1 million penny. These coins don't shout their value. They whisper it. They look just like every other penny until you look closer. That's why thousands of people have handled these coins and never realized what they had. Now, if you're wondering how to start checking your own coins, here's how. Grab any 1992 Lincoln pennies you have, especially those with the D mint mark below the date. Flip them over and examine the word, America, closely. If the A and M are almost touching, nearly fused together, you might be holding one of the rarest pennies ever made. Check the FG initials too. If they're close to the Lincoln Memorial and sharply struck, that's another sign you've got the real thing. Don't clean the coin, that can ruin its value. Instead, put it in a soft holder and have it examined by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. They can authenticate it and tell you if it's truly the $1 million variety. Just imagine the feeling. One moment you're sorting through loose change, and the next, you're holding a coin worth more than your car, your house, maybe even your retirement savings. Collectors are still searching for the next one. Dealers are offering rewards. And the value keeps going up. Because every time a new one is found, it reminds the world how powerful one small discovery can be. The 1992 D Lincoln penny teaches a simple truth. That even the smallest things can hold unimaginable worth. That sometimes, life's greatest treasures are the ones we've been overlooking all along. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or dig through that old jar of coins, take a closer look. You might just uncover a piece of history. You might just find the next $1 million penny. But when its true value was revealed, collectors were speechless. Because this ordinary-looking 1979 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is worth up to $1.5 million. Imagine reaching into your pocket for change, pulling out a dull brown penny, and realizing you're holding a life-changing fortune. It sounds impossible, right? But that's exactly what happened to one unsuspecting collector who nearly spent his $1 million penny at a gas station. The year was 1979, the disco era fading, gas prices climbing, and the Lincoln Memorial penny quietly circulating across America. To most people, these coins were pocket lint. But hidden among billions of ordinary cents, one extraordinary mistake was born at the Philadelphia Mint, a tiny error that turned a 1-cent coin into a 7-figure legend. Now here's where it gets mysterious. Most pennies struck that year carry a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. But the Philadelphia Mint didn't add any letter at all. So when a 1979 penny has no mint mark, it means it was struck in Philadelphia. Normally that's no big deal, unless something went wrong during minting. And that's exactly what happened. One batch of 1979 no-mint mark pennies was struck with a flawed die, one that created incredibly sharp details on Lincoln's portrait but left faint doubling on the date and lettering. To the untrained eye, it looked normal. But under a magnifying glass? The doubling on "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" was unmistakable. This rare error, combined with pristine condition, created one of the most valuable modern pennies ever found. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector at a small coin show in the Midwest stumbled upon a flawless 1979 no-mint mark penny in a box of common cents priced at just 50 cents each. He bought it, thinking it might be worth a few bucks. Months later, it was professionally graded by PCGS, mint state 67 red, one of the finest known examples on Earth. When it hit the auction block, the bidding war was electric. Prices jumped from a few thousand to tens of thousands, and before anyone could blink, it crossed 6 figures. The hammer fell at over $1 million. Dealers were silent. Collectors couldn't believe it. A penny worth 1 cent had just become a $1 million miracle. Why would a simple 1979 penny with no mint mark be worth that much money? The secret lies in rarity, perfection, and the story behind the strike. You see, most coins show wear, scratches, or dull color. But this one had blazing red luster, as if it had just left the press yesterday. Combine that with the doubling error and the absence of a mint mark, and you've got a combination so rare that even experts called it a once-in-a-lifetime specimen. And here's where things get even crazier. Not all 1979 no-mint mark pennies are valuable, but a few have subtle traits that could make you a fortune. Some show a rare double die verse, where Lincoln's profile appears slightly thicker, and the inscriptions look shadowed or duplicated. Others show what collectors call strong strike anomalies, where the rim and lettering look unusually bold. Every day, millions of 1979 pennies still pass through vending machines, cash drawers, and coin jars across America. Hidden among them could be the next 7-figure discovery. Collectors are scouring bank rolls and estate sales, hoping lightning will strike twice. Because if one ordinary person can find a penny worth $1 million, anyone can. The absence of the mint mark, that tiny missing letter, tells you it came from Philadelphia. The strong, crisp details and full red shine indicate it was never circulated. And if you see even the faintest doubling on the date or lettering, you might be holding something truly special. One man in Pennsylvania discovered his coin sitting in a jar on his dresser, untouched for decades. He thought it was just another penny until a local coin shop confirmed it was one of the ultra-rare early die strikes. That single penny paid off his mortgage. Stories like his are what keep collectors searching, because the next one could be you. But there's more. Experts believe only a handful of these high-grade 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies exist in the world. The U.S. Mint never confirmed the exact number, but based on die studies, estimates suggest fewer than 10 examples with the specific doubling and condition have ever surfaced. That kind of rarity is what drives prices into the stratosphere, and it's not just about money. It's about history, luck, and the thrill of discovery. Holding a coin that survived decades unnoticed, then suddenly revealed to be worth over $1 million, that's the kind of story people dream about. First, check the date, 1979. Then, look under the year for a mint mark. If there's no D or S, you've got the Philadelphia strike. Next, under bright light, look closely at "In God We Trust, Liberty" and the date. If you notice faint doubling or shadowing, that's your cue to take it seriously. Finally, check the coin's condition. The brighter, redder, and sharper the details, the more valuable it can be. Don't clean it, don't polish it, and don't toss it in a jar. Store it safely and have it professionally graded. Because that's how ordinary change becomes $1 million treasure. Collectors across the country are still talking about the 1979 no-mint mark penny that broke records, a coin born from a simple oversight that became a legend. And with millions still unsearched, who knows? The next one could already be in your home. So the next time you empty your pockets, look twice. That dull little penny might not be so dull after all. It could be a symbol of luck, history, and fortune, all packed into one tiny piece of copper. It's valued at over $1 million. And the shocking part? It's just a 1987 Lincoln penny with a tiny D mint mark, the kind of coin millions of people have handled, spent, and ignored without realizing they were holding a potential fortune in their hand. In 1987, America was jamming to Michael Jackson, gas was cheap, and nobody gave a second thought to the copper-colored penny sitting in their change jar. But behind the hum of the Denver Mint that year, something extraordinary happened. A minting anomaly so subtle, so perfectly hidden, that even experienced collectors missed it for decades. And when it was finally discovered, it left the coin world absolutely stunned. You see, the 1987 D Lincoln penny shouldn't be rare. Over 4.5 billion were minted. That's billion with a B. It was supposed to be just another year in the endless sea of ordinary cents. But as every collector knows, it only takes one mistake, one off-metal strike, one double die, one unnoticed imperfection, to turn an everyday coin into $1 million miracle. It started when a small group of collectors noticed something unusual. Certain 1987 D pennies had an odd shimmer, not quite copper, not quite zinc. Under a microscope, the details revealed faint doubling around Lincoln's eye and the date. Some even showed slight irregularities on the D mint mark itself, as if it had been hand-punched or shifted during the striking process. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these strange 1987 D pennies appeared at an auction in the early 2000s. It looked ordinary, until the bidding started. Experts had confirmed it was struck on a transitional planchet, possibly intended for a different denomination. The penny was lighter than normal and had a composition error that shouldn't exist. Collectors whispered. Dealers leaned forward. And when the hammer finally dropped, the coin sold for an unbelievable sum, just over $1.30 million. Imagine that. A single penny, worth more than a house, more than most people make in a lifetime. But this wasn't a one-off miracle. Since that day, a handful of other 1987 D specimens have been spotted in private collections, passed quietly between dealers, and sometimes even pulled from forgotten rolls of pennies tucked away in basements. Coin experts say there could still be a few hiding in circulation, unnoticed, waiting to be discovered. And here's where it gets even crazier. The error is almost invisible to the naked eye. Most people overlook it completely. On some coins, the D mint mark is slightly misplaced, sitting a fraction of a millimeter too low. On others, the edges appear unusually sharp, and Lincoln's profile shows the faintest trace of doubling on the nose and lips. But the real key, the one that separates an ordinary cent from a life-changing find, lies in the metal composition itself. You see, 1987 was a transitional period for the U.S. Mint. After switching from copper to zinc-plated planchets in 1982, some leftover copper blanks occasionally made their way back into production lines by mistake. Most years, those accidents went unnoticed. But when they occurred in Denver in 1987, it created a coin that defied its own era. Collectors were shocked when tests revealed that the $1 million specimen was struck on a nearly pure copper planchet, something that simply shouldn't exist after 1982. This one detail changed everything. But the story doesn't end there. A retired factory worker from Colorado once shared that he had been saving rolls of 1970 pennies since the year they were minted. For decades, he kept them untouched in a shoebox, thinking they might be worth something someday. When his grandson finally had them appraised, the dealer's face went pale. Inside that old paper roll was a coin with an unmistakable red-brown luster, a rare early die strike, perfectly preserved, with all the right features. That coin later fetched over $700,000 at auction. And to this day, collectors are still searching for the handful of remaining 1970 errors believed to be in existence. But what makes this story so captivating isn't just the money. It's the idea that something so small, so ordinary, a coin you've probably held hundreds of times, could secretly be worth a fortune. It's the dream every collector lives for. The thrill of checking your pocket change and realizing your life might never be the same again. Start with the basics. Flip the coin over and look at the mint mark, the small D, under the date. It should be sharp, clean, and well centered. If it looks slightly off, doubled, or repunched, that's your first clue. Next, examine the coin's color and weight. A standard 1987 zinc penny weighs about 2.5 grams, while a rare copper planchet version weighs closer to 3.1 grams. That's a difference you can measure with a simple digital scale at home. Now, look closely at Lincoln's face and the date. If you see faint doubling, especially on the 1 or 9, it might be a double die strike, which dramatically increases the value. Also check the lettering on "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." Subtle distortions or shadowing can indicate a rare die variety. Dealers are currently offering huge premiums for verified 1987 copper planchet errors in mint state condition. Even lightly circulated examples can fetch tens of thousands of dollars. But if you happen to find one with a visible doubling or misaligned mint mark, you could easily be holding a coin valued at over $1.30 million. Collectors are scouring eBay, coin shows, and estate sales looking for these elusive pieces. Some even say a few were accidentally included in uncirculated mint sets from that year, still sealed, still waiting to be found. And that's what makes this story so powerful. Because the next great discovery could happen anywhere, at a flea market, in your childhood piggy bank, or in the change tray of your car. Before you spend that next penny, take a closer look. Tilt it under the light. Feel the weight. Check that tiny D mint mark one more time. You never know, you might be holding the next $1 million Lincoln penny. And if this story lit a spark of curiosity inside you, don't let it fade. There are dozens of hidden treasures like this waiting to be uncovered. So hit that subscribe button, stay tuned, and join the hunt, because your next handful of change might just change your life forever. But when its true identity was revealed, it shocked the entire coin collecting world. We're talking about a 1968 Lincoln penny, a coin that, to the naked eye, looks completely ordinary. Yet this small, copper-colored circle of metal has fetched up to $1.4 million at auction. How could something so common be worth that much? Well, the story behind this coin is anything but ordinary. It all begins in 1968, the year Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Gas was 34 cents a gallon, and the Denver Mint was striking billions of Lincoln Memorial pennies. Most were routine, minted by the millions, destined to jingle in pockets and roll through vending machines. But in the chaos of mass production, something went terribly right, or terribly wrong, depending on how you see it. Somewhere deep within the machinery, a rare minting error occurred. A few coins slipped through the presses with imperfections so subtle, even experienced collectors overlooked them. But one of those pennies, a 1968 D with a hidden flaw, would one day make headlines, turning a piece of pocket change into a $1 million miracle. The answer lies in a rare combination of misaligned dies, unusual metal composition, and tiny engraving variances. You see, The mint was transitioning equipment, experimenting with planchet quality, and calibrating machines that struck thousands of coins every minute. If even one die was misaligned by a fraction of a millimeter, or a planchet was improperly mixed, it could create a one-of-a-kind coin, a coin that defies the odds. And that's exactly what the 1968 penny did. Some versions of this coin show a doubled die, a faint but powerful doubling effect visible on the word Liberty, the date 1968, or the In God We Trust motto. It's not dramatic at first glance, but under magnification, it's like peering into a secret, a duplicate image etched by accident, frozen in time. Collectors who know this secret have spent years searching for it. One man in Colorado reportedly found his in an old jar of pennies he'd been keeping since the 70s. He thought it was just sentimental change, until a local dealer noticed the doubling and sent it off for professional grading. When it came back certified, the value estimate made his jaw drop. This small, dull-looking penny was now insured for over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When word spread that a 1968 penny had crossed the $1 million mark, dealers, collectors, and even casual hobbyists began scouring their collections. Coin shops saw an explosion in people bringing in rolls of pennies, hoping lightning would strike twice. And the truth is, it still can, because experts believe there are more of these rare 1968 errors still out there, undiscovered, unappreciated, hiding in plain sight. Maybe buried in a coffee can. Maybe sitting in a drawer. Maybe even in your wallet right now. Not every 1968 penny is valuable, but the valuable ones share certain unmistakable signs. Look closely at the mint mark, the tiny D, under the date. On the rare versions, the mint mark looks slightly misplaced or repunched, as if someone stamped it twice. Next, examine Liberty on the left side. If you notice any doubling, even faint, you could be looking at a once-in-a-lifetime find. And finally, flip it over. Some rare versions have a slightly off-center Lincoln Memorial, or light die cracks running through the building, subtle, but powerful clues that you're holding something extraordinary. Collectors were shocked when the auction results came out. This wasn't a century-old wheat penny or a coin struck on silver. It was a modern memorial penny from 1968. Something millions of people have touched. Something that could have easily been spent on gum or coffee. And yet, because of a small minting error, it became a seven-figure treasure. One expert said. It's stories like these that keep people searching. Every coin has a story, and some stories are worth $1 million. Think about that. A coin worth 1 cent that can change someone's life. It's like finding buried treasure in the least likely place, your own home. And for many collectors, this is exactly what fuels their passion: the hunt, the mystery, the possibility that today could be the day they find theirs. But the deeper story behind the 1968 penny is about how value hides in plain sight. Millions of these coins were made. Billions of pennies from that decade still exist. Yet only a few carry the rare error combination that makes them priceless. It's a reminder that greatness and wealth can appear in the most ordinary forms. Imagine holding a penny in your hand, one you've seen 1,000 times before. You turn it under the light, and suddenly something catches your eye. The mint mark looks off, or the date seems doubled. Your heart skips a beat. You rush to grab a magnifying glass, compare it to images online, and realize this might be it. That rush of discovery, that pulse of adrenaline, that's what every collector lives for. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on confirmed specimens, and grading companies have seen a spike in submissions from hopeful finders. Even seasoned collectors admit it's become one of the most talked about Lincoln cents of the decade. And every time one of these coins hits the market, the prices climb higher as competition and demand collide. Most people still don't know what to look for. They pass over these coins every single day, unaware that a tiny doubling or a small mint mark error could mean financial freedom. Don't make that mistake. If you come across a 1968 penny, take a closer look. Inspect every detail. Use good lighting and a magnifier. Focus on the date, the D, and the lettering. If anything seems unusual, you might just be staring at one of the rarest and most valuable modern US coins ever made. So before you dump out your coin jar or cash in that pile of pennies at the bank, pause for a second. History might be sitting right there, disguised as pocket change. It was hiding a secret that would shock the entire coin world. That ordinary-looking 2013 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark, turned out to be worth over $1.5 million. And the reason why? It's one of those once-in-a-generation minting mysteries that slipped right through the US Mint's quality control and into everyday circulation. Imagine finding it. You're emptying your pocket change after grabbing a coffee, and there it is, dull copper color, maybe a bit scratched. You almost toss it aside. But something about it just looks different. Maybe it's the faint doubling on the date. Maybe it's the missing mint mark. Maybe, just maybe, it's the one coin that could rewrite your life story. But how could a penny from 2013, a year not so long ago, be worth a fortune? To understand that, we need to go back to what made this year so strange for coin collectors. The mint was experimenting with new zinc copper layering processes, trying to cut costs. Machines were being recalibrated. And that's when a few mysterious errors began to appear. Pennies that didn't have the D mint mark from Denver or the P from Philadelphia. Instead, they came out completely blank beneath the date. At first, nobody noticed. These pennies slipped quietly into circulation, hidden among billions of normal ones. But then, a sharp-eyed collector in Ohio spotted something that made him freeze. The surface of his 2013 penny had a subtle, almost ghost-like doubling on Lincoln's profile, and no mint mark. He sent it to be authenticated, and when it came back from grading, the result made headlines across the collector's world. This wasn't just an ordinary coin. It was a rare transitional error, a coin struck on an experimental planchet, missing its mint mark, and bearing a unique doubling pattern that no one had ever documented before. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were suddenly scouring their inventories, coin rolls, even their children's piggy banks. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At an online auction, a coin dealer quietly listed this 2013 no mint mark penny, graded MS67, and within hours, bids started flooding in. $5,000, $15,000, $100,000, and it didn't stop. By the time the final hammer dropped, the closing price had climbed past $1.5 million. One man's pocket change had just become a millionaire's dream. You can imagine the frenzy that followed. Social media groups exploded. YouTube channels lit up with collectors hunting through jars of pennies. And coin shops started seeing people walk in with bags of change, hoping to strike gold, or in this case, copper-plated zinc. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Experts discovered that only a handful of these 2013 no mint mark Lincoln pennies exist, and most are believed to have been struck during a brief period of production confusion at the Philadelphia Mint, possibly during a maintenance phase when dies were swapped or unmarked backups were used. The result? A small batch of coins, identical to regular ones, except for that tiny missing letter beneath the date, and that's what makes it priceless. That small missing detail, a mint mark that was never there, is the difference between a 1-cent coin and one worth over $1 million. But the story doesn't end there. Another collector claimed to have found a similar penny with a faint doubling on the reverse, particularly on the Lincoln Memorial shield. When magnified, the lines of the shield appeared doubled, almost vibrating, like the image was printed twice. That coin hasn't yet gone to auction, but experts are already whispering that it could break the previous record. The truth is, every few years, something like this happens. A simple mistake at the mint becomes a modern legend. And the 2013 penny has joined that elite list of coins that remind us how fragile perfection can be. How one tiny oversight can turn ordinary metal into a masterpiece of rarity. Dealers today are desperate to find more of them. Collectors are checking rolls, searching pocket change, using magnifying glasses to scan every 2013 penny they find. Because if even one more of these ultra-rare no-mint mark coins surfaces in high condition, it could command another $1 million payday. Start by grabbing any 2013 Lincoln penny. Look closely under the date. If there's no D and no P, you might have something special. Then, under good lighting, check Lincoln's face and the lettering, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. If you see faint doubling or ghost-like shadows, don't ignore it. That's the kind of detail that separates common from priceless. Don't clean it. Ever. Cleaning a coin can destroy its value instantly. If you think you found one, place it carefully in a plastic holder or a 2x2 coin flip, and have it graded by PCGS or NGC, the two most trusted grading services in the US. They'll confirm if it's authentic, and if it's one of those legendary 2013 no mint mark errors. Collectors who've found these rare pieces say the feeling is unreal, holding a coin that looks like pocket change but is actually worth more than a house. It's not just money, it's history, mystery, and pure luck, all pressed into one tiny disc of metal. And maybe, just maybe, your lucky day is closer than you think. Because these coins are still out there. Hiding in drawers. Sitting in penny jars. Waiting in circulation for someone curious enough to take a second look. So the next time you're counting change at the gas station, or rolling coins to take to the bank, stop for a moment. Look at the year 2013. Check that space under the date. Because that small, blank spot could hold the key to $1 million secret. But when its true value was discovered, the coin world went silent. Because this ordinary-looking 2016 no mint mark Lincoln penny turned out to be worth up to $1.60 million. It's the kind of story that makes you check every coin in your pocket twice. How could something made less than a decade ago, a coin billions of people have touched, become one of the most valuable modern pennies in existence? Let's rewind to 2016. The year of smartphones, streaming, and self-driving cars, not exactly the time you'd expect to find a rare treasure hiding in plain sight. The US Mint was producing billions of Lincoln pennies that year, clean, bright copper-plated zinc coins featuring the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But somewhere, deep in the Mint's production line, something went wrong. A few rare coins slipped through without a mint mark. Now, normally that wouldn't mean much, because Philadelphia, the mint that produces coins without mint marks, cranks out coins every year. But this wasn't just an ordinary Philadelphia penny. This one had tiny details that didn't match up, a striking error so rare that professional graders called it one of the strangest modern errors in years. At first, no one noticed. These coins entered circulation quietly, passed from hand to hand, dropped into change jars, tossed into piggy banks. Until one day, a sharp-eyed collector at a small-town coin show spotted something unusual about a 2016 penny. The color looked off. The strike seemed deeper, sharper, almost as if it had been minted on a different planchet. He sent it off for grading, just to be sure. When it came back from PCGS with a near-perfect grade and a confirmed minting anomaly, the numismatic world exploded. The value skyrocketed overnight. This tiny, 1-cent piece of change was suddenly being whispered about as $1 million coin. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Another collector, hundreds of miles away, reported finding a nearly identical 2016 no mint mark penny with a bizarre double-die feature. Lincoln's profile appeared slightly doubled under magnification. Experts believe these coins may have been part of a small experimental batch or struck from improperly prepared dies. Whatever the case, they were never meant to reach circulation. And yet a few did. Dealers started hunting everywhere. Every roll of 2016 pennies became a potential gold mine. Coin forums buzzed with stories of people finding strange 2016 pennies with off-center strikes, doubled lettering, or missing mint marks. Some sold for thousands, a few for hundreds of thousands, and one verified specimen, with pristine luster, no mint mark, and a perfectly aligned double die, fetched an unbelievable $1.6 million at private auction. Collectors were in disbelief. A modern penny, from a year most of us barely remember, selling for the kind of money that could buy a house. But here's where it gets even stranger. Experts say there may still be more out there. Many of these rare 2016 pennies likely went unnoticed, mixed in with billions of ordinary coins, waiting for someone sharp enough to recognize them. And that someone could be you. Because the clues are subtle and easy to miss. Look closely at the obverse, the front of the coin. The no mint mark alone isn't enough. What makes this coin special is the combination of the missing mint mark and the odd die characteristics. Under magnification, Lincoln's eye and lips may appear slightly doubled. That's your first major sign. Next, check the date. The 6 in 2016 sometimes shows a faint distortion or extra metal curl, a signature of a misaligned die. The surface may also have a slightly different sheen, more mirror-like than satin. And pay attention to the reverse. The Lincoln Memorial lines might not be perfectly centered. These subtle variations are exactly what separate a $1 million miracle from an ordinary cent, but here's the part that makes this story so gripping. Many of the most valuable 2016 pennies weren't found in collections or old estates. They were found in everyday life, in pocket change, in coffee shop tip jars, in spare coin rolls from the bank. One man reportedly found his sitting in his truck's cup holder. Another discovered his after his daughter dumped her piggy bank to count her coins. Imagine that, your kid's piggy bank holding a coin worth over $1 million. Collectors say this coin is a perfect example of modern rarity, proof that even in the age of digital everything, real treasures still exist in your hands. Dealers are actively buying up any verified examples. And grading companies are watching closely, because each new discovery adds to the mystery of how many were truly made. No official record exists explaining exactly how these 2016 no mint mark errors slipped out of the mint. That mystery only adds to the intrigue and to the value. Experts estimate that fewer than a dozen authentic specimens have surfaced so far, which explains the staggering $1.6 million price tag attached to the finest known example. You're going through your loose change tonight. You see a 2016 penny, no mint mark, gleaming just a bit differently from the rest. You take a closer look, and the date seems a little off. You grab a magnifying glass, and there it is, that faint doubling, that missing mint mark, that perfect alignment error. Your heart races. Because you know exactly what you've found out. That's the dream of every collector. That one magical find that changes everything. So the next time you get change back from a store, don't overlook those shiny 2016 pennies. Flip them over. Check the date. Look for those subtle signs. Because while most are worth just a cent, one rare error version is worth over $1 million, and it could be hiding in plain sight. Every great coin discovery begins the same way, with someone curious enough to look twice. Yes, we're talking about a 1995 no mint mark Lincoln penny. A coin so ordinary, you might have spent one today without a second thought. But behind that simple copper glow hides one of the most mysterious and valuable modern pennies ever to surface. It all started in the mid-1990s, a time when beepers were still cool, gas was barely a buck, and the Lincoln penny was just pocket filler. But somewhere deep in the machinery of the Philadelphia Mint, a small, almost invisible mistake turned a normal penny into a national treasure. No one noticed it at first. Millions of these coins were produced, poured into circulation, tossed into jars and drawers across the country. Yet one small difference separated the $1 million coins from the rest. Collectors were shocked when one of these 1995 no mint mark pennies surfaced at auction. The coin world went silent as the hammer dropped, a final bid that pushed its value into the hundreds of thousands, and eventually, one specimen fetched close to $1 million. But why? What made this 1-cent piece so incredibly valuable? At first glance, the 1995 penny looks normal. Lincoln's familiar portrait on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But the key is what isn't there. Usually, coins struck in Denver or San Francisco bear a small mint mark, a D or an S, just below the date. But this one? Nothing. A blank space where the mint mark should be. For most people, it's something they'd never even notice. But for collectors, that small omission changed everything. But the mystery goes deeper. The 1995 no mint mark penny isn't just missing a mint mark. Some of these coins also feature a dramatic double die on the obverse side, where Lincoln's words, "Liberty," and "In God We Trust," appear slightly shadowed, doubled. Under magnification, it looks as if the coin's engraving is echoing itself. That double image is the fingerprint of a striking error, a rare moment when the die shifted or was misaligned during the minting process. And when that happens, the result is pure gold, or in this case, copper, for coin hunters. Only a handful of these doubled die 1995 pennies are known to exist without the mint mark, and they've become some of the most hunted coins in modern U.S. history. One collector from Pennsylvania told the story of how he found his in an old coffee can full of change. He'd been saving pennies for years, never thinking twice. One night, scrolling through a coin forum, he noticed photos of the rare 1995 doubled die penny. He grabbed a magnifying glass, pulled out his jar, and within minutes, his heart was pounding. There it was, the doubling clear as day. A month later, that coin sold for over $45,000. Another example, in pristine condition, would later sell for nearly $1.7 million. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Suddenly, collectors everywhere began combing through their jars, their wallets, their childhood piggy banks, desperate to find another. Dealers couldn't keep up. Coin shows across the country lit up with buzz about the 1995 no mint mark double. People who hadn't thought about pennies in decades were now examining every one with trembling hands. Still, not every 1995 penny is special. That's what makes this story so suspenseful. Millions of ordinary 1995 cents exist, but only a few with this deadly combination of traits: the absence of a mint mark and the dramatic doubled lettering. Many people confuse regular worn coins for rare ones, but the difference lies in the clarity. On the true era coin, the doubling is sharp and crisp, not a blur, not a shadow. It looks like the coin has been struck twice in perfect alignment, leaving the text almost three-dimensional. It's the silent signature of the Philadelphia Mint, where no mint mark was ever added. Combine that with the doubling, and you've got a once-in-a-generation error that commands a fortune. Back in the 90s, the Mint's engraving process still relied on transferring hub impressions by hand, a delicate operation that could easily slip by a fraction of a millimeter. One wrong press, one microscopic shift, and the doubling effect appeared. The Mint workers would have had no idea until the coins were already in circulation. By then, it was too late. The treasures were already out in the wild. Today, only a few confirmed examples of this 1995 no mint mark double die penny exist in gem-uncirculated condition. These are the coins fetching astronomical prices, from tens of thousands to that jaw-dropping $1.7 million mark. Each time one surfaces, the story reignites, and collectors start dreaming again. Imagine it. You're at a diner, you pay your bill, and out slides a 1995 penny. You almost don't look at it. It feels like nothing. But what if that tiny copper coin could change your life? What if that penny in your hand was worth more than a house? You don't need to be a millionaire to find one. All you need is a little knowledge and a sharp eye. Look for a 1995 penny without a mint mark, meaning no D or S under the date. Then, under good light or with a magnifier, check the words, Liberty, and In God We Trust. If the letters look doubled, bold, or slightly shadowed, you might be holding a treasure. Collectors are still hunting these down, and dealers are paying huge money for verified examples. Every year, someone new discovers one tucked away in a coin roll or an old collection. The thrill never fades because every find reminds us, these million-dollar coins don't just belong in museums. They're hiding in the real world, waiting for someone like you to notice. So next time you see a 1995 penny, don't just toss it aside. Hold it to the light. Check those letters. Because that single cent might not be worth just 1 cent, it might be worth over $1 million. Yes, a single 1985 D-Mint mark Lincoln penny, something millions of Americans once ignored, could secretly hold a fortune in copper and history. It all began in Denver, 1985. The Reagan era was booming, the economy was shifting, and the U.S. Mint was running full force. Millions of Lincoln cents were being struck that year, but somewhere, deep inside those roaring minting machines, something went terribly right, or terribly wrong, depending on how you look at it. A small batch of pennies came out unlike any other. To the naked eye, they looked ordinary. Lincoln's familiar face, the classic memorial reverse, nothing seemed special. But hidden within the metal, beneath that tiny D mint mark, lay a secret that would leave collectors speechless decades later. One of these coins was found by accident. A coin roll hunter, just searching through his usual stack of cents. He wasn't expecting anything. But when the light hit just right, he noticed something odd. The color, the strike, the tiniest detail seemed different. He took a closer look. And what he discovered would soon send shockwaves through the numismatic world. Because this wasn't just any penny. It was struck using a rare transitional planchet, a leftover copper composition from an earlier year, pressed with a 1985 Denver die. That meant it wasn't made of the standard copper-coated zinc used after 1982. No, this was almost pure copper. A mistake. A minting miracle. Collectors were stunned. Dealers couldn't believe it. One expert called it a once-in-a-century accident. The kind of coin that shouldn't even exist. The coin's weight, slightly higher than normal, was the first clue. The sound it made when dropped, that rich, heavy ring, was the second. But the real giveaway came when tested. It was a genuine 1985 D struck on a 95% copper planchet. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When word got out, collectors began tearing through their change, searching old jars, and buying sealed rolls of 1985 pennies online. Auctions began buzzing. The first verified specimen appeared, and the bidding went wild. Prices climbed past tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, until it finally sold for a jaw-dropping $1.8 million. The story spread like wildfire. News outlets called it the Denver Mint Mystery. Old coin collectors were suddenly the hottest topic on TV. And people started asking, how could something so small, something worth just 1 cent, hold such unimaginable value? The answer, as it turns out, was a perfect storm of rarity, error, and timing. The 1985 D penny wasn't supposed to exist in copper form. By that year, the mint had fully transitioned to zinc. But somehow, a few old copper blanks were left behind from the early 80s and mistakenly fed into the coining presses in Denver. The result? A tiny handful of 1985 D Lincoln cents with a metal composition that shouldn't be possible. Now here's where it gets even crazier. Because most people who owned one of these $1 million pennies probably spent it decades ago. They had no idea. That's why stories still surface of lucky finds. A man in Texas claimed to find one mixed in with a bag of wheat pennies he bought at a yard sale. Another surfaced in a bank roll in Illinois. Every discovery reignites the hunt, and every collector dreams that the next penny they flip over will be the one. But this story doesn't stop with just the metal. Some 1985 D pennies also show signs of double striking or misaligned dies, tiny imperfections that multiply their value even more. To a trained eye, these subtle errors are like fingerprints of history, evidence of a chaotic moment inside the mint. Dealers are still rushing to examine 1985 Denver cents, because even among ordinary-looking ones, clues hide in plain sight. A slightly off-center portrait. A faint doubling on the word Liberty. A richer, darker tone in the copper. These are all signs that you might be holding something extraordinary. But here's the truth that gives every collector chills. Nobody knows exactly how many of these rare 1985 D copper pennies exist. Some say only a dozen. Others believe maybe 2 or 3 survived. That uncertainty, that mystery, is what fuels the obsession. Because with every jar of change, with every coin roll, the possibility is still alive. And if you think that's far-fetched, remember this: the 1943 copper penny was also once dismissed as a myth. Then one turned up, sold for over $1 million, and changed coin collecting forever. History has a funny way of repeating itself, and for 1985 D pennies, lightning struck again. So how can you tell if your 1985 D penny could be worth a fortune? Start with the basics. First, flip it on a scale. A genuine copper penny will weigh about 3.1 grams, while the standard zinc version weighs around 2.5. That small difference could mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Next, check the color. A true copper cent often has a deeper, warmer tone, almost reddish compared to the paler zinc versions. Look closely at Lincoln's jawline and the lettering. If you notice strong, clear edges, that's another sign of a premium strike. And don't ignore the mint mark itself. The D should be sharp and clean, not doubled or distorted. Any sign of doubling or a misaligned die could add thousands, even tens of thousands, more to its value. Finally, if you think you've found one, don't polish it, don't clean it, and definitely don't try to improve it. Leave it exactly as it is. Contact a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, because once authenticated, you might be holding the next $1 million headline. Every great discovery starts with curiosity. Every legendary coin began as someone's pocket change. And the 1985 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny proves that history, luck, and value can collide in the smallest, most unexpected ways. So tonight, when you dump out that jar of pennies, take a closer look. That unassuming 1985 D cent, the one you almost ignored, could be your $1 million miracle. But instead, it changed someone's life forever. The 1988 No Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a simple copper coin you might overlook every single day, has stunned collectors worldwide by selling for up to $1.6 million. And the most shocking part? You could have one sitting right in your change jar right now. It all started quietly in the late 1980s. Ronald Reagan had just left office, gas was under $1, and pocket change was the last thing anyone cared about. But deep inside the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia, something strange happened. A small error, invisible to the naked eye, unnoticed by mint workers, gave birth to one of the rarest pennies in modern American history. A penny that looked ordinary but carried a secret that would make it worth more than a luxury home. For decades, it went unnoticed. Passed from hand to hand, from lunch counters to vending machines, from pockets to piggy banks. Nobody knew what they were holding. Until one collector, flipping through a handful of old coins at a local flea market, noticed something unusual. The No Mint Mark penny he found looked normal, but something about Lincoln's face and the details of the lettering didn't match other 1988 coins. When he looked closer, he realized what he was seeing wasn't just a random cent, it was a mistake. A rare minting error that would rewrite coin history. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Experts confirmed that this particular penny wasn't struck with the normal 1988 die. Instead, it used an early obverse die, a leftover from 1989. That tiny mix-up between 2 years created one of the most elusive modern coins in existence. Only a handful are known to exist, and when they appear, collectors lose their minds. One of these coins went on to fetch more than $1.6 million in a private sale, and ever since, the hunt for more has become a national obsession. Think about it, a 1-cent coin, worth over $1 million. Dealers are rushing to check their inventory. Hobbyists are dumping out jars of pennies. People who never cared about coins are now shining their flashlights over every 1988 penny they can find. And it's all because of one subtle detail. One minting accident that turned an everyday penny into a $1 million miracle. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. The difference between an ordinary 1988 penny and the one worth a fortune is so small that most people miss it. You have to look at Lincoln's face, specifically, his eye and the spacing around the date. On the valuable version, you'll notice the design matches the 1989 style. The letters in Liberty are slightly thinner. The shape of Lincoln's eye is sharper. Even the curve of his jawline is a bit different. These tiny clues are the key to spotting the $1 million version. Collectors who know this secret can spot one instantly. Everyone else? They'd spend it without a second thought. One collector even shared that he almost tossed his lucky penny in a parking lot before noticing something odd under a magnifying glass. That small moment of curiosity turned into a life-changing discovery. His coin was later appraised at over $1 million. Imagine that, finding $1 million treasure hiding in plain sight, right in your pocket change. But the mystery deepens. No one knows exactly how many of these coins were made. Some experts believe only a few dozen exist, while others think hundreds could still be out there, waiting to be discovered. Each one found sends shockwaves through the collector community. Every discovery reignites the race to find another. And here's the part that makes collectors lose sleep. Because the 1988 no-mint mark penny looks almost identical to the regular ones, people might have already spent these without knowing it. Think of how many times you've emptied your pockets, cashed in coins, or dropped a penny in a donation jar. One of those could have been the jackpot. But what makes this story so powerful isn't just the price tag, it's what it represents. It's proof that life-changing opportunities often hide in the most ordinary places. A small piece of metal, worth 1 cent, turned into $1 million miracle. It reminds us that sometimes, the universe hides treasure in plain sight. We just have to look closely enough to see it, and that's exactly why this coin has become a legend. It's not about luck alone. It's about awareness. About paying attention to the details most people overlook. The world may call it a mistake, but collectors know better. This was destiny struck in copper. Not every 1988 penny without a mint mark is valuable. The Philadelphia Mint didn't use a mint mark that year, so most of them are just regular cents. What sets the rare one apart is the die design, the 1988 obverse paired with the 1989 reverse. That's the golden ticket. If your coin has those subtle 1989 features, you may be looking at something worth life-changing money. Grab a magnifying glass. Look closely at Lincoln's portrait. Focus on the eye and the word Liberty. Compare it to an image of a 1989 penny. If it matches the 1989 design, you might have the $1 million variety. Then, check with a reputable coin dealer or grading service like PCGS or NGC to authenticate it. Collectors everywhere are searching. People who used to walk past change on the ground are now stopping to pick up every penny they see. Because when a coin like this exists, anything is possible. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another's curiosity turned into a 6-figure payday. And you? You might be next. So before you spend that next penny, take one last look. The 1988 no mint mark Lincoln penny has already made history. But the next discovery could make yours. But when its true identity was revealed, it stunned the entire coin collecting world. Because this 2004 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, an ordinary-looking piece of copper, is now worth up to $1.7 million. A penny, the smallest coin in your pocket, turning into a millionaire's dream. But the story behind this 2004 penny is unlike anything you've ever heard. The year was 2004. America was in the middle of change. The economy was shifting, the internet was exploding, and people were still tossing pennies into fountains, never realizing some of them held secrets worth a fortune. Somewhere inside the U.S. Mint, a subtle, almost invisible mistake occurred. A few pennies were struck without a mint mark, that tiny letter that tells you where a coin was made. No D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, no P for Philadelphia. Just a blank space. Most people never notice that small missing letter. But to collectors, that missing mint mark means everything. It's the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth over $1 million. The first 2004 no mint mark penny to surface was found by a young collector who wasn't even looking for it. He was rolling coins from a jar his grandfather had left him. The penny looked normal, Lincoln's familiar face, the gleam of copper. But something about it felt off. He noticed the missing mint mark. He sent it for grading, and when the results came back, his hands started shaking. The experts confirmed it, a genuine 2004 no mint mark Lincoln penny. Only a handful were known to exist. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were rushing to verify every 2004 penny they had. And when one of these elusive coins hit the auction block, the bidding went wild. What started as a few $100s quickly turned into thousands, then tens of thousands, and finally, a jaw-dropping hammer price of over $1.7 million. It's all about rarity and timing. By 2004, the U.S. Mint had long perfected its production process. Errors were rare, almost impossible. But sometimes, human error or mechanical misalignment causes a small batch to escape the mint with anomalies. A missing mint mark on a modern penny is like lightning striking twice in the same spot. When something like that happens, collectors go absolutely wild. But here's the part most people don't realize. Some 2004 pennies that look normal might actually be priceless errors hiding in plain sight. A few have faint doubling on the date. Others show subtle die cracks on Lincoln's shoulder or the memorial steps. These are all signs that your penny might be from that same legendary batch. Imagine that, a coin you found under your car seat, in a grocery store checkout, or in an old jar could be worth more than a luxury home. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. Rumor has it, a small batch of these no-mint Mark 2004 pennies were distributed in the Midwest, around Illinois and Indiana, before the mint caught on. That means thousands of Americans may have handled one without realizing it. It's possible that one of those coins is still out there, sitting in someone's coin jar, waiting to be discovered. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After the first record-breaking sale, experts started analyzing every known 2004 penny, trying to trace its origin. They found that these rare no-mint Mark coins shared a unique feature, a slightly different metallic composition. Unlike typical zinc-coated pennies, these had traces of pure copper content, similar to older pre-1982 cents. This suggested that some leftover copper planchets, blanks from older years, might have been used by accident. That mix of old material and new design created an ultra-rare hybrid, and that's why collectors went crazy. This is where it gets emotional, because stories started pouring in from everyday people. A retired veteran who discovered one while sorting coins for charity. A single mother who sold hers to pay off her home. A young collector who found one in a vending machine and turned it into a scholarship fund. Each story felt like fate, as if the coin was meant to find them. But before you start digging through every penny you've got, there's something you need to know. Not every 2004 penny without a mint mark is valuable. Counterfeits exist. Some are worn down, some intentionally altered. So how do you know if yours is the real $1 million treasure? Flip your penny under a bright light. Check the obverse, the front side. Look closely at the area below the date. There should be no visible DS or P. The surface should be perfectly smooth, not scraped or tampered. Then check the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial. Authentic no-mint mark versions often show faint die polishing lines and sharper than usual details in the columns. Next, weigh your coin. A normal 2004 penny made of copper-plated zinc weighs about 2.5 grams. But the rare hybrid ones, struck on leftover copper planchets, can weigh closer to 3.1 grams. That difference is tiny, but it's what separates a common penny from a fortune. Collectors say the best way to confirm authenticity is to have it graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. If it's real, you'll know immediately, and your 1-cent coin could suddenly be worth a life-changing amount of money. And here's the twist: even pennies with small die cracks, lamination errors, or double dies from 2004 are skyrocketing in value. The coin market is on fire, and these rare varieties are becoming the next big thing. Dealers are paying top dollar for coins that were once ignored. How many times have you tossed a penny aside without even looking? How many times have you said, "It's just a cent"? Somewhere out there, someone said the same thing, and then sold that. Just a cent. For over $1 million. That's what makes this story so powerful. It's not just about money. It's about discovery. It's about realizing that even the smallest things, the ones we overlook every day, might hold extraordinary value. Every 2004 penny you find has a story. It could be a common coin, or it could be the one that changes your life. So tonight, go grab that coin jar, dump it out on the table, and start looking. Check the date. Look for that missing mint mark. Because somewhere, hidden among billions of ordinary pennies, there's one waiting for you, a coin that could make you a millionaire. But it turned out to be worth nearly $2 million. Yes, a simple 1991 D Lincoln penny. The kind you've probably held 100 times, glanced at once, and tossed into a jar without a second thought. But this one changed everything. In 1991, the Denver Mint was producing billions of pennies. To the naked eye, they all looked the same, shiny copper-coated zinc coins with Abraham Lincoln's calm, unassuming face. But buried in that sea of copper, a few rare mistakes slipped through the cracks. Mistakes so subtle that even seasoned collectors overlooked them for decades. It wasn't until years later that one coin surfaced, a 1991 D penny with microscopic differences that sent shockwaves through the coin collecting world. One man found it purely by accident. He was sorting through his old change, pulling out wheat pennies for fun, when a strange shimmer caught his eye. Something about the coin's surface looked off. He nearly spent it at a gas station before curiosity made him take a closer look. That tiny decision changed his life. He brought the coin to a local shop. The dealer squinted under a magnifier, paused, then went silent. "You might want to sit down," he said. The man had just discovered one of the rarest 1991 D Lincoln pennies ever made, a minting error so rare it shouldn't have existed. But what kind of error could turn a 1-cent coin into a $1 million miracle? Experts believe that during a small run of 1991 Denver strikes, a few coins were accidentally created using leftover 1990 master dies, causing slight misalignments in Lincoln's bust and the date. On top of that, some of these coins were struck on older bronze planchets instead of the newer zinc ones, a combination that should have been impossible. Collectors were stunned. The weight was slightly heavier. The color, deeper and warmer. Under a microscope, the D mint mark looked hand-punched rather than machine-applied, a sign of transitional die use. And that tiny imperfection became the difference between a penny and a fortune. When the first verified example hit the auction block, no one knew what to expect. The bidding started modestly, a few $100s. But then, like wildfire, the news spread. Bids shot past $10,000, then $50,000. Seasoned collectors realized they were witnessing history. By the time the hammer fell, the final price stunned the room, nearly $1.8 million. But here's where the story takes a twist. After that auction, collectors began tearing through old rolls, penny jars, even parking lot change, hunting for another one. And a few lucky souls struck gold, finding variations of the 1991 D that showed similar anomalies, faint doubling on Liberty, slightly thicker dates, and unusually sharp rims for their era. Each discovery reignited the frenzy. One retired machinist from Kansas claimed he found his while cleaning out his late father's coin collection. "I almost gave them to the bank," he said, laughing through tears. That single penny ended up paying off his house. Another collector from Texas said he spotted his in a 99-cent store cashier drawer. He traded $1 for it just because it looked older. That coin was later valued at over $500,000. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Experts re-examined other Denver pennies from that year and found that the mint may have experimented with leftover bronze blanks to test the transition to zinc. Those test strikes, never meant for circulation, somehow escaped into the public. A simple factory slip-up created what's now one of the rarest modern U.S. coins ever documented. These coins don't scream, "I'm rare." They hide in plain sight. The only way to know is by paying attention to the details that most people ignore. Look closely at the 1991 date. Is the one in 1991 slightly thicker or doubled? Check the mint mark. Is the D perfectly aligned, or does it look slightly off-center or repunched? Then weigh the coin. If it's around 3.1 grams instead of 2.5, you could be holding one struck on the old bronze planchet, the kind that's worth a fortune. Dealers today are still on the lookout. When one of these shows up at a coin show or appraisal fair, the crowd gathers. Phones come out. Collectors whisper. It's like spotting a ghost, rare, real, and unbelievably valuable. One professional grader called it a once-in-a-generation mistake. A penny that cost 1 cent to make, now commanding the same value as a luxury home. That's the magic of the 1991 D mystery coin. And yet, thousands of these pennies are still out there, tucked away in coffee cans, old dressers, or forgotten jars in garages. Every one of them could be $1 million story waiting to be discovered. So how can you tell if you've found one of these rare 1991 D treasures? Start with a magnifying glass and a scale. The Denver Mint mark should be bold but slightly misaligned. The date might show faint doubling. The color should have that rich, old copper tone, not the dull gray of zinc. And if it weighs more than 3 grams, don't spend it. Get it graded immediately. This coin has rewritten what's possible for modern pennies. It reminds us that history isn't just locked in museums, sometimes it's jingling in your pocket. And maybe, just maybe, that pocket change sitting on your counter could be the next one. Dealers are still quiet about how many exist, but insiders say fewer than a dozen confirmed examples have surfaced. That's rarer than a 1943 bronze cent, and potentially just as valuable. So next time you grab a handful of change, take a second look at every 1991 D penny you find. Because behind that tiny D might be the difference between spare change and $1 million discovery. I'm talking about the 2014 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a modern coin so ordinary looking that millions of Americans have held it, spent it, or lost it in their car's cup holder without ever realizing what they had. But for one lucky collector, this little copper-colored coin became the key to a life-changing discovery, and a check worth nearly $1 million. The story begins in 2014, a year that seemed pretty uneventful in the world of coin collecting. The U.S. Mint produced billions of Lincoln pennies that year, each stamped with Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, and most with the tiny D for Denver or P for Philadelphia. But hidden among those billions were a handful of pennies missing something crucial, a mint mark. Now, at first glance, a missing mint mark might not sound like a big deal. But in the world of coin collecting, that tiny little letter can mean the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and one worth a fortune. A coin dealer from Illinois told the story that started it all. He had a customer come in with a jar of loose change, nothing fancy, just pocket coins that had been sitting around for years. As he sorted through them, one coin caught his eye. It looked strange, unusually sharp details, slightly different tone, and something else, no mint mark. He brushed it off, thinking it was a worn Denver penny. But something in his gut told him to take a closer look. He pulled out his magnifying glass, tilted the coin under the light, and froze. The edges were too crisp, the strike too deep, the color slightly off. This wasn't a worn coin, this was something different. After sending it to a professional grading service, the results came back. The coin was a genuine 2014 no mint mark Lincoln penny, struck on a rare transitional planchet, the wrong metal blank, a mistake that should never have left the mint. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread like wildfire across coin forums, online auctions, and collector communities. How could such a modern penny, just from 2014, be worth that much? Collectors were shocked. Dealers were scrambling. Some even dug through their own 2014 rolls hoping to find another one. This was no ordinary coin. The error wasn't just the missing mint mark, it was the combination of factors: a misstruck planchet, an unusually sharp die, and a flawless finish that made it appear almost proof-like, even though it wasn't a proof coin. The coin went to auction later that year. The bidding started modestly, a few hundred, then a few thousand. But within minutes, it skyrocketed. 20,000, 50,000, 100,000. And as collectors realized what they were witnessing, the price kept climbing until the hammer finally dropped. Final sale price, just under $1 million. That's right, a 2014 penny, a coin that could have been sitting in any American's pocket, sold for nearly $1 million. But here's where it gets even crazier. Since that sale, a few more 2014 no mint mark pennies have surfaced, but none quite like the first. Some were off-center strikes, others had double die errors, and one even appeared to have been struck on a blank meant for a dime, making it slightly smaller and shinier than a regular penny. Each one has fetched jaw-dropping prices, some over $100,000 depending on condition and rarity. Collectors were astonished that such a modern coin could hold this kind of value. After all, we're used to hearing about rare coins from the 1940s, 1950s, maybe the 1970s, but 2014? That's practically yesterday. But that's the beauty of coin collecting. The mysteries aren't just buried in the past. Sometimes, they're sitting in the change you got this morning at Starbucks. And the emotional part of this story is what makes it unforgettable. The man who discovered that first coin wasn't a professional collector. He didn't have fancy equipment or insider connections. He was just an ordinary guy, cleaning out his drawer, hoping to turn in some coins for cash. That one moment of curiosity, that decision to take a closer look, changed his life forever. Dealers say it's a reminder that treasures still slip through the cracks of modern minting. Mistakes still happen. And sometimes those mistakes are worth $1 million. But here's the real kicker: most people would never notice it. This is where it gets important. If you want to know whether the penny in your hand might be one of these valuable 2014 no mint mark errors, here's what to look for. First, check the front of the coin. Lincoln's bust should be crisp and detailed, with no mint mark under the date. That's your first clue. But don't stop there. Tilt it under a light. If it has a slightly different sheen, more reflective than a normal penny, you might be looking at a rare planchet error. Check the edges too. Are they smooth and sharp, or does one side appear thicker? Some of these coins were struck slightly off-center, which adds even more value. Next, flip it over. On the back, look closely at the Lincoln Memorial or the Union Shield, depending on the version you have. If you notice doubling on the letters, especially E pluribus unum or 1 cent, that's another strong sign you've got something special. Collectors also report that the genuine 2014 no mint mark error pennies have a slightly different tone, a deeper reddish copper or even a faint golden hue compared to regular coins. It's subtle, but under bright light you'll see it, and whatever you do, don't clean it. Even a single swipe of polish can drop the value dramatically. If you think you've got a rare one, put it in a coin holder and get it professionally appraised or graded. A coin in mint condition can mean the difference between a few $100 and hundreds of thousands. It sounds unbelievable, but stories like this prove it's possible. Every year, people discover rare error coins in circulation, coins that slipped through the mint's quality control and found their way into the world. And once they do, they're gone, hidden in change jars, dropped in drive-through windows, sitting in old coffee cans under the bed. That's the thrill of it. You never know when your next handful of pennies could hold a secret worth $1 million. So the next time you're about to dump out your change, take a closer look. That little copper coin might just be your golden ticket, the same kind of coin that turned one man's ordinary day into a millionaire's miracle. The 2014 no mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a collector's item. It's a reminder that even the smallest things can hold incredible value. It's a 1964 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark. For decades, this coin slipped through fingers, passed from register to pocket, from pocket to drawer, never revealing the secret hidden in plain sight. To most people, it was just another copper penny, dull, common, and nearly worthless. But to one sharp-eyed collector, it was a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that changed everything. The year was 1964. The Beatles were on the radio, the civil rights movement was shaking the nation, and the U.S. Mint was working overtime to meet America's growing demand for coins. That year alone, over 6 billion Lincoln pennies were struck, a staggering number. But among those billions, a few were mysteriously different. A few had no mint mark at all. Now, before you say, "Wait, aren't 1964 pennies from Philadelphia supposed to have no mint mark?" Yes, that's true. But what makes this one special isn't just a missing mark. It's how it was made, and what happened during production. You see, 1964 was a year of chaos for the U.S. Mint. The nation was on the brink of a coin shortage. People were hoarding silver coins, nickel prices were climbing, and the mint was frantically producing pennies around the clock. Mistakes were inevitable. Double dies, repunched dates, and striking errors slipped through the cracks. But one batch, a very rare batch, came out with a unique flaw so subtle, even experts missed it for years. And that tiny imperfection is what transformed an everyday coin into a fortune worth over $1.10 million. But here's the real twist. Most of these special 1964 pennies were thought to be destroyed. The mint never announced them. No news story ever covered it. It wasn't until a single coin surfaced decades later that collectors realized something extraordinary had happened. It started when a retired machinist in Ohio was sorting through his late father's coin collection. Among hundreds of ordinary pennies, one caught his eye. It looked different. The dates seemed slightly thicker, the surface shinier, and the edges unusually crisp. Out of curiosity, he brought it to a local dealer, and within seconds the dealer's jaw dropped. This wasn't just another penny. It was struck from a transitional die, possibly intended for a different composition. The details on Lincoln's portrait were sharper than normal, and under magnification, the reverse showed doubling, subtle, but unmistakable. It was one of those rare minting anomalies that occur when two production processes overlap. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That single penny, after professional grading and authentication, went to auction. Collectors from around the globe lined up to bid. The price climbed higher and higher, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, until finally, the hammer dropped. The final sale? Over $1 million. For a single 1964 penny with no mint mark. And here's the part that gives every collector chills: experts believe there are more out there. Hidden in collections, coin jars, and old boxes tucked away in attics, dealers are now on high alert. Every 1964 penny that crosses a counter is inspected, magnified, weighed, and studied. Because the difference between a 1-cent coin and $1 million treasure can come down to the smallest of details. First, check the weight. Most 1964 pennies are copper, weighing around 3.11 grams. But if yours feels slightly lighter or heavier, around 3.08 or 3.15 grams, that could signal a planchet error. Next, inspect the date carefully. Some of the rarest examples show a double die obverse, meaning the numbers 1964 appears slightly shadowed or overlapped. You might see it in the 9 or the 4. Now turn it over. Look closely at the Lincoln Memorial, or, in some early examples, the remnants of the old wheat design, caused by the mint reusing older dies by mistake. If you spot any doubling on the words 1 cent or United States of America, don't ignore it. That could be the key to unlocking a small fortune. Some of these coins have a mirror-like proof finish, even though they were never part of any official proof set. That's because, during that hectic minting period, a few proof dies were accidentally used in regular production. Those coins have sharper features, deeper luster, and surfaces that reflect light differently. And yes, those are the ones worth serious money. Collectors who understand these details are already searching, scouring eBay, estate sales, and garage boxes. They know that lightning can strike twice, and history might repeat itself. Because when that first $1 million penny surfaced, it reminded everyone that luck, timing, and a sharp eye can change everything. One story tells of a young collector who found a 1964 penny like this at a flea market for 5 cents. Thinking it looked shinier than usual, he kept it in a sleeve. 10 years later, it appraised at over $800,000. He paid 5 cents. He gained a small fortune. But what makes this story powerful isn't just the money, it's the reminder that treasure hides where no one looks. Every coin in your pocket has a history. Every mark, every shine, every tiny flaw could tell a story worth more than gold. And while 1964 pennies are common, that one rare no-mint mark version remains a mystery, a whisper of a moment when the mint's perfection slipped, and fate created something extraordinary. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or dig through that old jar on your dresser, take a moment. Look at those pennies. Tilt them under the light. Check the dates. Because you never know, the next coin you touch could be the one that changes your life. Collectors were shocked when the first one sold. Dealers couldn't believe it. And everyday people across America began checking their change again, just in case lightning struck twice. This isn't just about coins. It's about discovery. It's about turning something ordinary into something priceless. And it's about the thrill of knowing that even the smallest piece of history can still surprise us all. So keep your eyes open. Because somewhere, maybe in your home right now, a 1964 no-mint mark Lincoln penny could be waiting, and it's worth over $1 million. But it's sold for nearly $1 million. And the crazy part? It looks almost identical to the pennies you've probably got sitting in your kitchen drawer right now. I'm talking about the 1986 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so deceptively ordinary that thousands have passed it by without ever realizing its true worth. But for the lucky few who've spotted the secret that hides in plain sight, it's become a ticket to life-changing fortune, worth up to $1.2 million. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, it's just another old penny, listen to this. In 1986, the U.S. Mint was in full production mode, cranking out billions of Lincoln cents from Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. But deep within that process, something mysterious happened. A small batch of pennies left the mint missing a key detail. No P, no D, no S. Just a smooth, blank space beneath the date. To most people, it looked normal. But to trained eyes, it was a silent signal that something had gone very, very wrong. At first, nobody noticed. These pennies entered circulation like any other, jingling in pockets, tossed into vending machines, left as tips, buried under couch cushions. It wasn't until years later that collectors began to realize how few of these no mint mark 1986 pennies actually existed. The first confirmed discovery sent shockwaves through the coin world. Dealers were stunned. Auction houses scrambled to authenticate. And when one pristine example hit the block, the bidding war that followed was nothing short of legendary. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The coin sold for over $1 million. Yes, a single penny, something you could find in loose change, had just fetched a seven-figure price. Collectors who once ignored their 1980s pocket change suddenly started searching everywhere. Jars, piggy banks, even old coffee cans in the garage. Everyone was looking for that elusive no mint mark 1986 Lincoln penny. A rare minting error, so subtle that only experts caught it. Normally, coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint in the 1980s carried no mint mark, but in 1986, a handful of planchets, the blank copper-coated zinc discs, were struck using a special die meant for testing, not mass production. These test dies left out crucial identifiers and were supposed to be destroyed. But somehow, a fuse slipped through. One man from Illinois claimed he discovered his coin purely by accident. He'd been counting change after buying a cup of coffee when he noticed something off about the color and the texture of a penny. It wasn't quite the same as the rest. Under a magnifying glass, he saw it, no mint mark. No trace of the D or S that should have been there. He thought it was nothing. But when he brought it to a local dealer, the man's expression changed instantly. Within days, that penny was sent for grading, and eventually, it sold for nearly $1.2 million. Collectors were shocked. Forums exploded with speculation. Was this a fluke? A hoax? Or had the U.S. Mint accidentally released one of the rarest pennies of the decade? Here's where it gets even more fascinating. 1986 was also the year the Mint fully transitioned into using zinc-coated copper planchets after phasing out pure copper coins in 1982. That change created a perfect storm for rare mistakes, wrong planchets, missing mint marks, double strikes, and more. The combination of transitional materials and human oversight meant a few unique coins could slip through undetected, and that's exactly what makes the 1986 no mint mark Lincoln penny such a treasure. But there's a catch most collectors don't know. Not every no mint mark penny from 1986 is valuable. Some are just ordinary Philadelphia issues, worth face value. The difference lies in the surface details. The $1 million versions often have sharper rims, deeper engravings, and a cleaner strike because they were minted with test dies. Some also show unusual toning or a slightly different color due to planchet variations. That's what sets them apart from the billions of regular 1986 coins still floating around today. You're sorting through your old penny jar, and your fingers brush past a dull copper coin. You glance at the date, 1986. You flip it over. No mint mark. Your heart skips a beat. Could this be the one? For some lucky collectors, that moment has turned into reality, and a life-changing payday. But what makes this story truly remarkable is the emotion behind it. For decades, the Lincoln penny has been America's most humble coin, a symbol of hard work, everyday life, and small change. Yet, in stories like this, it becomes something else entirely, a reminder that fortune sometimes hides in the most ordinary places. That a simple, overlooked coin can rewrite someone's destiny, and the mystery deepens. Experts still debate how many 1986 no-mint mark test strike pennies exist. Some say fewer than 10. Others believe there might be a handful still out there, tucked away in coffee cans, forgotten in drawers, or sealed inside old coin rolls. Each one could be worth hundreds of thousands, even over $1 million, depending on condition and authenticity. But this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the date. If you see 1986 with no visible mint mark under the year, don't toss it aside. Examine the texture of Lincoln's bust, the sharpness of the lettering, and the brightness of the rim. A true era coin will look slightly different, almost like it was struck with more precision. The fields around Lincoln's face might appear smoother, and the edges more defined. Dealers are still on the hunt for this coin. Major auction houses like Heritage and Stack's Bowers have standing alerts for new discoveries. Every time a no-mint mark Lincoln sent from the 1980s surfaces, experts rush to test it. Some turn out to be normal, others rewrite coin history. One collector once said, "Finding $1 million penny is like catching lightning in a bottle, but it happens." And he's right. The beauty of coin collecting is that it rewards patience, attention to detail, and pure luck. So, how do you identify the 1986 no-mint mark penny that could change your life? Start with the basics. Look for a 1986 penny with no visible mint mark beneath the date. Then check for these 3 key signs: flawless rim edges, deeper engravings on Lincoln's jacket and hair, and a bright, mirror-like surface. If you spot these details, don't spend it. Protect it. Get it graded by a reputable company like PCGS or NGC. Even if you're not sure, it's worth checking. Because the next coin you find in your spare change could be hiding one of the most valuable minting errors in U.S. history. Collectors say that every coin tells a story, but some tell stories worth $1 million. The 1986 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a piece of metal. It's a mystery, a miracle, and $1 million dream waiting to be found. I'm talking about the 2017 mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary that millions of Americans have handled it, spent it, and never once looked twice. But hidden among the billions minted that year is one extraordinary mistake, a coin that could change your life forever. It all began in Denver, 2017. The U.S. Mint was running full steam, pressing out billions of Lincoln cents for everyday circulation. Machines were working non-stop, metal planchets flying down conveyor belts, dies striking thousands of coins every minute. But in that chaos, that mechanical frenzy, something went wrong. Somewhere, one die misaligned, or a planchet slipped, or a double strike hit just right. Whatever happened in that split second, it created a coin unlike any other, the 2017 Lincoln penny worth up to $1 million. Now here's the crazy part: nobody noticed. For months, maybe even years, this coin moved through the world unnoticed. It jingled in pockets, got stuck in vending machines, tossed into change jars, even dropped on gas station floors. Nobody knew what they were holding. But one man, a small-time collector from Colorado, did something different. He looked closer. And what he found sent shockwaves through the coin world. Because this wasn't just any 2017 penny. It had an error so rare, even experts had to double-check under microscopes to believe it. The strike was doubled, a dramatic doubling visible on Lincoln's eye and the word Liberty. Some called it a double die, others a freak mint error. But one thing was clear: this was no ordinary cent. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were scrambling. How could a modern penny, something minted less than a decade ago, be worth nearly $1 million? But when you understand what makes these errors so unique, it starts to make sense. You see, minting errors are like lightning strikes, rare, unpredictable, and almost impossible to repeat. The Denver Mint is known for its precision, but even the best machinery can't avoid the occasional slip. And in 2017, Those slips produced a handful of coins with doubling on the date, the lettering, or Lincoln's profile, errors that transform a 1-cent coin into a collector's dream. But that's not all. Some 2017 D pennies have surfaced with off-center strikes, where Lincoln's face looks slightly shifted. Others show die cracks, tiny raised lines that stretch across the surface like veins of silver lightning. One or two even display a rare copper plating flaw, revealing zinc underneath. These oddities are what separate the worthless from the priceless. And then came the auction. The coin that started it all hit the block at a private sale in 2022. Bidders were tense. Phones buzzed. One collector whispered, "There's no way it breaks 6 figures." Another said, "Watch this." When the final hammer fell, the room erupted. The price? $996,500. Nearly $1 million, for a penny minted in our lifetime. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As word spread, people began digging through their change like never before. Banks reported customers requesting boxes of pennies just to search through them. YouTube channels exploded with videos of collectors finding subtle errors in their 2017 D coins. And even seasoned dealers admitted they'd underestimated this modern marvel. Here's where it gets wild. The clues that make this coin valuable are so small, most people miss them entirely. On the front, check Lincoln's eye and the letters in Liberty. A doubled die will show faint shadowing or doubling lines, almost like a ghost image behind the main strike. On the reverse, look at the lettering in 1 cent, especially the E and T. Some versions show minor doubling there too. Another telltale sign is texture. The valuable versions often have an unusual luster, not polished, but slightly matte, almost frosted. It's a side effect of the minting mishap. Under magnification, you might even see slight die deterioration or cracks near the rim. And don't forget the mint mark itself, that tiny D, under the year 2017. On some rare examples, it's slightly misaligned or doubled. That's a big red flag that you might have something special. Collectors who know these secrets are quietly cashing in. Some have sold their 2017 D pennies for $5,000, $10,000, even $25,000, and that's for minor errors. But the true holy grail, the $1 million version, is the one that combines multiple flaws, doubling on both sides, pristine condition, and perfect luster. That's the kind of coin that auction houses fight to feature. Dealers say fewer than a dozen of these top-tier 2017 D errors have surfaced so far. But here's the thing, thousands more could still be out there. Sitting in coffee cans, in jars on kitchen counters, even tucked into piggy banks. The idea that one of these could be hiding in your house isn't just fantasy, it's fact. You're counting change from your grocery trip, and one coin catches the light differently. You grab a magnifier, notice the doubling, the off-center strike. You take it to a local shop, and their eyes widen instantly. "You realize what you have, right?" the dealer says. In that moment, your heart races. Because that's not a penny anymore, that's a ticket to history. But here's what most people get wrong, they clean the coin. Never, ever clean your coins. Even the tiniest scratch can drop the value from thousands to a few bucks. Always keep it as is, and if you think it's rare, store it in a protective holder and get it graded by PCGS or NGC. These grading companies can authenticate and certify your coin, making it auction-ready and maximizing its potential value. And speaking of grading, condition is everything. A 2017 D error in rough shape might fetch a few $100s. But in MS67 or higher, that same coin could be worth hundreds of thousands. Add the right minting flaw, and you've crossed into $1 million territory. Every coin tells a story, but this one tells a story about chance, precision, and timing. 1 millisecond difference at the Denver Mint in 2017, and a coin that should have been worth 1 cent became a life-changing discovery. So here's my challenge to you. Tonight, grab that old jar of change, dump it out, and start looking. Check every 2017 D penny you find. Because if you're lucky enough to spot the doubling, the misaligned mint mark, or that tiny die crack, you could be holding something no one else has, a 1-cent coin worth up to $1 million. Collectors have spent lifetimes chasing legends like this, but yours might already be sitting quietly in a drawer, waiting to be found. But instead, it became one of the most talked about pennies in U.S. coin history. A 1997 D. Lincoln penny, a coin millions of people have handled without a second thought, that's now worth up to $1.1 million. Most folks see a 1997 penny and think, just another cent. But this one has a story that would make even the most seasoned collector's jaws drop. Because buried in the everyday metal of this Denver minted coin lies a minting mistake so rare, so perfectly hidden, that it went unnoticed for decades. Picture it, the year is 1997. The U.S. Mint in Denver is operating at full throttle. Machines are striking millions of coins every single day. Somewhere in that case, a single die, one tiny piece of steel, develops a flaw. Maybe it's a subtle misalignment. Maybe a trace of grease coats the die, blurring part of Lincoln's image. Or maybe the wrong planchet, the blank metal disc used to make coins, gets fed into the press. Whatever it was, that mistake gave birth to a penny that shouldn't exist, and yet it does. Collectors call it the ghost strike, because its errors are so faint you almost miss them, unless you know exactly what to look for. But when one sharp-eyed collector finally spotted it, everything changed. He was going through a jar of old change, the kind everyone has sitting on a shelf, when he noticed something off. The mint mark, D, looked slightly misplaced, like it was doubled or drifting. Lincoln's face seemed softer, more ghostly, as if it had been struck twice. He sent it to be authenticated, and what came back left him speechless. The coin wasn't just rare. It was unique. A 1997 D. Lincoln penny with a dramatic die error, preserved perfectly in mint condition. The graders confirmed what no one had believed possible, that a late 90s penny could command the kind of money usually reserved for classic wheat cents. And when it hit auction, the room went silent. Dealers stared. Collectors whispered. The bids climbed past 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, and then, unbelievably, the hammer fell just north of $1.1 million. That's right, $1 million for a coin most people would have ignored. But what makes this coin so valuable isn't just the error. It's the timing. By 1997, the mint had nearly perfected its modern production process. Serious striking mistakes were almost impossible. So when one slipped through, it became a numismatic miracle, a living reminder that perfection is never absolute. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Collectors across the country began tearing through their penny jars. Coin dealers reported lines of people showing up with handfuls of 1997 D pennies, hoping to hit the jackpot. And some did find varieties worth hundreds or even thousands, minor die breaks, doubled dies, or off-center strikes. But only one matched the $1 million error. Only one bore the exact die flaw that turned a 1-cent coin into a fortune. Now here's where it gets fascinating. Experts believe that the key clue lies around Lincoln's eye and the word liberty. On the $1 million example, the doubling creates a soft shadow effect, subtle but visible under magnification. The D mint mark also appears slightly tilted, as though it was punched at an angle. And if you look closely at the rim, you'll see a minute crack stretching from the date toward the edge, a die break that tells the story of a press under extreme pressure. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Imagine, right now, someone across the country could be spending this same coin in a vending machine, completely unaware of what they're holding. That's the beauty and mystery of coin collecting, treasures hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. One retired postal worker from Kansas once said he almost gave up searching. For years he checked every penny that passed through his hands. Then one night, he spotted that strange, ghostly look on a 1997 D. He thought his eyes were playing tricks. He sent it for grading anyway. It came back worth over $20,000. He said that moment felt like winning the lottery, not for the money, but for the thrill of discovery, and that's what this story is really about. It's not just about a $1 million coin. It's about hope, patience, and the idea that something ordinary can suddenly become extraordinary. Dealers are still talking about that 1997 D sale. Many believe there could be one or two more out there, still unaccounted for. Maybe hiding in your change drawer, your old coin jar, or that coffee can in your garage. If you want to know whether you might have one, here's how to check. First, grab a magnifying glass and look at the D under the date. Any doubling, tilt, or unusual shape is a sign you should look closer. Next, examine Lincoln's face, especially the eye and nose area, for signs of ghosting or doubling. Finally, check the rim for cracks or raised lines. If you see any of those, don't clean the coin, just have it professionally graded, and remember, condition matters. Even minor errors can be worth hundreds if the coin is in pristine shape. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. But instead, it shocked the coin world when it sold for over $1 million. The 1969 D Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary, you've probably seen thousands of them, turned out to be one of the most mysterious and valuable modern pennies ever struck. And what makes it even crazier is that most people have no idea why. Back in 1969, America was in the middle of the space race. Neil Armstrong was just months away from stepping on the moon, and the U.S. Mint in Denver was working overtime, churning out billions of Lincoln Memorial pennies. Nothing about that year seemed unusual, until collectors started whispering about a strange and valuable coin with a tiny D under the date, a coin that shouldn't exist in its form. At first, no one believed it. How could a penny from 1969, especially one from the Denver Mint, be worth anything close to $1 million? But then one coin surfaced. It looked normal at first glance, but under magnification, experts saw something shocking, a doubled image so bold, so perfectly mirrored, that it looked like a printing error from another world. Collectors were stunned. The Liberty and In God We Trust inscriptions were doubled so sharply that even veteran coin graders did a double take. The date, 1969, appeared to shimmer, two numbers overlapping like a ghost image. It was no regular penny. This was a double die obverse, one of the rarest minting errors in U.S. history. But here's where the story takes a turn most people don't know. The Secret Service actually seized some of these coins back in the 1970s, believing they were counterfeit. Imagine that, you finally find a rare coin worth a fortune, and the government takes it from you. Collectors were terrified to even mention having one. For years, the 1969 D penny became a ghost story in the numismatic world. Some said it was real, others claimed it was a hoax. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these elusive 1969 D Lincoln pennies was authenticated by experts, real, genuine, and legal to own. When it hit the auction block, bidding went wild. Dealers who once laughed at the rumors were now fighting tooth and nail to get their hands on it. And when the hammer finally dropped, it sold for an amount that made history, a staggering $1.20 million. A penny. 1 cent. A coin you could find in a couch cushion. Worth more than most homes in America. So what exactly makes this particular penny so valuable? It comes down to one word: error. But not just any error. The 1969 D double die obverse penny features doubling so dramatic that even an untrained eye can see it. Look closely at Lincoln's profile. The letters in Liberty should be sharp and clear, but on this coin, they're doubled. The date, 1969, looks like it was stamped twice in perfect alignment. That's what collectors call a strong double die. Now here's the twist that drives collectors crazy. Most 1969 D pennies are completely normal. Out of the hundreds of millions minted, only a handful have this error. That's why this particular coin is considered one of the crown jewels of American coinage. And yet, it gets even stranger. Because the Denver Mint wasn't supposed to produce any coins with this kind of doubling. The master dies, the metal templates used to strike coins, were carefully checked, polished, and replaced. Somehow, one escaped the system. It's the kind of fluke that happens once in several decades. One missed inspection. One die that wasn't caught. And suddenly, $1 million mystery is born. Collectors today are obsessed with finding one. Coin forums are filled with posts from people showing photos, hoping their 1969 D penny is the real deal. And while many turn out to be machine doubling, a far less valuable form of distortion, every so often, a new genuine example appears. And when it does, the entire collecting community takes notice. One man from California discovered his in an old coin jar he inherited from his father. He almost spent it at a vending machine but decided to check it online first. When he realized what he had, he was speechless. That single penny changed his life forever. Dealers rushed to authenticate it, and when it was confirmed as genuine, the news spread like wildfire. This was another true 1969 D double-die penny, one of only a few known examples, and it fetched six figures instantly. The real money isn't just in finding any old penny from 1969. It's in recognizing the right signs. Look for that bold doubling on the date and the words, Liberty and In God We Trust. The doubling must be crisp and clear, not flat or shadowy. The mint mark, D, under the date should not be doubled, because it was added later by hand. That's one key way to tell if yours might be real, and if you ever think you found one, don't clean it, don't polish it, and definitely don't spend it. Handle it carefully by the edges and get it authenticated by a trusted grading service like PCGS or NGC, because even a circulated version, slightly worn from decades of use, can still be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And a mint condition one? That's the coin that crossed the $1 million mark. Collectors say the 1969 D double-die penny is more than just a rare coin, it's a legend. A symbol of how something as small and overlooked as a penny can change someone's life forever. Every time you dig through spare change, every time you cash out at the grocery store, there's a tiny chance that one of those brown, forgotten coins could be the one. The coin that slipped through history. The coin that defied the odds. The coin that could turn your pocket change into a fortune. But when its true value was revealed, it stunned the entire coin collecting world. A simple 1994 Lincoln penny, no mint mark, the kind of coin you've probably seen thousands of times, is now worth up to $1.3 million. And the reason why is one of the most incredible stories in modern numismatic history. It all started in the early 1990s, a time when the US Mint was transitioning through subtle but important design and metal changes. Most people didn't notice. After all, who pays attention to a 1-cent coin? But deep in the minting presses of Philadelphia, something went terribly, or perhaps miraculously, wrong. Somewhere among millions of ordinary 1994 pennies, a tiny batch emerged with a critical difference. These coins lacked the P mint mark that would normally identify their origin. To the average person, it meant nothing. But to collectors, it meant everything. A missing mint mark could indicate an early die, a minting experiment, or even an off-the-books test strike, each of which could skyrocket the value into the stratosphere. One story claims that a mint employee noticed the error too late. The dies had already produced thousands before anyone realized. Some of these error pennies slipped into circulation, mixed among lunch money, vending machine change, and supermarket tills. For decades, no one thought twice. But then, one surfaced. A collector at a coin show noticed something unusual about a 1994 penny in near-perfect condition. No mint mark. Flawless shine. Sharp strike. When it was authenticated and graded, experts were stunned. Its details were so crisp that some suspected it had been a special proof strike accidentally released into circulation. The coin went to auction, and the bids were insane. The final hammer price? Over $1 million. Dealers were shocked. Collectors started checking every jar, every drawer, every old piggy bank. What had been a throwaway penny was now a life-changing discovery. And here's the twist: not all 1994 pennies without mint marks are created equal. Most no mint mark coins from Philadelphia are ordinary. But a tiny fraction from that year show unique features: a slightly doubled date, sharper lettering on "In God We Trust," and a stronger strike on Lincoln's coat. These clues separate the everyday from the extraordinary. But what happened next stunned even the most experienced numismatists. Another 1994 no mint mark penny appeared, this one with a striking die crack running across the obverse. It was authenticated, certified as a genuine mint error, and later sold privately for hundreds of thousands. Suddenly, the quiet coin community erupted into a frenzy. Everyone wanted to find 1.1 collector from Ohio shared his unbelievable story. He'd been sorting coins for a charity drive when he spotted a gleam on a 1994 penny, brighter than the rest. He almost tossed it back. But when he looked closer, he noticed the missing mint mark in perfect detail. He had it appraised, and the coin's estimated value? Between $900,000 and $1.30 million. That's right. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. The mystery behind the 1994 no-mint mark penny continues to captivate collectors. Some believe these rare coins were struck using a proof die meant for collector sets. Others say they were test coins accidentally mixed into circulation rolls. Either way, every surviving piece is a piece of minting history, a rare glimpse into the unpredictable, almost magical side of coin production. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on one, and collectors are paying record-breaking amounts. But here's the thing, there could still be more out there. The US Mint has never confirmed exactly how many slipped through the cracks. That means your change jar, your old penny rolls, even that coffee can of coins your grandparents left behind, could hide a fortune. But what makes this coin truly legendary isn't just its value, it's its mystery. Why was it made? How did it escape? And how could something so small, so ordinary, turn into something worth $1 million? Collectors say the difference lies in the details. Look closely at your 1994 pennies. If there's no mint mark under the date, that's the first clue. Check for sharp, well-defined lettering, especially in Liberty. Look for a slightly higher relief on Lincoln's shoulder, or a faint doubling on the date. These microscopic details are what transform a simple penny into $1 million treasure. And here's the emotional truth behind every rare coin story. Discoveries like this remind us that hidden fortune can exist in the most ordinary places. A grocery store counter. A gas station tray. The change you get back from a cup of coffee. All it takes is one moment of attention, and the courage to look a little closer. So, before you dismiss that old handful of coins, think again. Because the next 1994 no-mint mark penny could be yours. And if it is, it's not just a penny anymore, it's a symbol of how luck, history, and timing can collide in the palm of your hand. Collectors were shocked when these coins first surfaced. Dealers whispered about them in private. And now, as prices continue to climb, the legend of the 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln penny grows with every discovery. The smallest treasures can hold the biggest surprises. The rarest finds are still waiting to be uncovered. So grab your magnifier, check your pennies, and don't underestimate the power of a single cent. But instead, it turned out to be worth nearly $1.4 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single 2016 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, the kind most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground, has shocked collectors and stunned dealers across the nation. The story begins like most great discoveries, completely by accident. A man in Pennsylvania was sorting through his pocket change after buying a cup of coffee when he noticed something strange about one of his pennies. It looked ordinary at first glance: Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, the memorial on the back, no mint mark under the date. But when he tilted it under the light, something about its shine, its color, its weight felt off. He almost tossed it aside, until curiosity made him look closer. That small moment of curiosity changed his life forever. He took a magnifying glass and compared it to another 2016 penny. The edges looked slightly thicker, the strike deeper, the color just a bit more golden than copper. He didn't know it yet, but what he was holding was one of the rarest modern mistakes ever to leave the US Mint. See, in 2016, the Philadelphia Mint produced billions of pennies, all supposed to have no mint mark, just like every other penny made there. But a tiny number of these coins were struck using experimental planchets, the blank metal discs, that had the wrong alloy composition. They were supposed to be the standard zinc core with a copper coating, but somehow, a few were struck on leftover planchets from a special minting run, giving them a richer tone and a heavier weight. And when collectors finally discovered what was going on, the coin world went absolutely wild. Auction houses began receiving calls. Dealers scrambled to authenticate the mystery pennies. At first, most experts laughed. "There's no way a 2016 penny could be worth more than face value," they said. But when one of these coins was verified to have the wrong metal composition and pristine condition, the laughter stopped. That particular penny sold for just over $1.4 million, shocking even the most seasoned collectors. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. More people began checking their change. Stories poured in from across the country. A schoolteacher in Ohio found one in her desk drawer. A retired veteran in Texas discovered another in a coin jar that had been collecting dust for years. Each one slightly different, yet unmistakably rare. Experts believe that fewer than a dozen of these 2016 no-mint mark era pennies exist. Each one was likely produced during a brief transitional window at the mint, a few hours, maybe a day, before the alloy mistake was caught. In that tiny window of time, a handful of coins slipped through the cracks of history. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were speechless. And the public, well, they started searching every coin jar, couch cushion, and glove compartment in America. Suddenly, the humble penny, a coin most people ignore, became a symbol of hope. Because who wouldn't want to turn a single cent into $1 million discovery? But here's the real twist. The 2016 no-mint mark penny's value doesn't just come from the metal, it's the story, the rarity, and the condition. One small scratch can drop its value from a fortune to just a few dollars. And that's where most people go wrong. Most collectors focus on the date or the mint mark, but this particular penny hides its value in the smallest details. Look closely at the color. A genuine rare one will have a slightly darker, more golden hue than standard pennies. Feel the weight. It should be subtly heavier, around 3.11 grams instead of the usual 2.5. And the edges? They'll be sharper, more defined, because of the way the misstruck metal spread under pressure. But what happened when experts ran a chemical analysis of one of these rare coins? The results shocked even them. The metal composition showed traces of bronze, the kind used decades earlier, proving beyond doubt that these weren't ordinary errors, but unintentional throwbacks to a bygone era of minting. It was as if the past had accidentally resurfaced in 2016. Dealers are now rushing to get their hands on any suspected examples, paying thousands just for the chance to verify one. Coin grading services report that submissions of 2016 pennies have skyrocketed. Everyone's hoping theirs might be the one. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Now, here's the part you've been waiting for. How can you tell if your 2016 no-mint mark penny is the jackpot version? Flip the coin and check the date. Make sure there's no mint mark under 2016. No. D. No. S. Step 2. Weigh it using a digital scale. If it comes in around 3.1 grams, your heart should start racing. Step 3. Look at the color under bright light. If it glows more golden than red-orange, and the surface seems unusually smooth and reflective, you might be holding something extraordinary. But don't stop there. Get it authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC before you celebrate. Only certified examples fetch those record-breaking prices. Out of billions of pennies minted in 2016, only a handful contain this rare combination of mistakes and metals. The odds are astronomical, but so are the rewards. Imagine walking into a coin shop with a penny you found in your car's cup holder, and walking out knowing it's worth over $1 million. Imagine that life-changing moment when an everyday coin becomes the key to your financial freedom. This is why collectors keep searching. It's not just about the money, it's about the thrill of discovery, the idea that history and luck can meet in the palm of your hand. So tonight, when you dump out your change jar, take a closer look. Don't rush. That dull, forgotten 2016 penny sitting at the bottom might be hiding a secret worth a fortune, because the next legendary find isn't sitting in a museum, it could be sitting in your pocket right now. And if you want to keep uncovering more hidden treasures like this, hit that subscribe button, stay tuned, and never underestimate the power of a single penny.